Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Pilarski, if you could lead the room.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please take a quick moment to remain standing for a moment of silence for our veterans. Thank you all. You may be seated.
Member Barbara Bukowski.
Present.
Councilmember Diane Benchkowski.
Here.
Councilmember Anthony Flipsky.
Here.
Councilmember Michael Jazinski.
Here.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski.
Present.
Councilmember Vernon Thompson.
Here.
Supervisor Brian Nowak.
Present.
All are present.
Okay. Welcome to today's special meeting of the Town Board. We have one order of business here, and it is to discuss the 2026 preliminary town budget. If the board is so inclined, I'd like to recommend we begin with remarks and a presentation from our town comptroller, Dennis Dombrowski. Is there any objection to that with board members?
I'll second it.
Okay, appreciate that. Hearing none, seeing none. Dennis, the floor is yours.
I guess. Okay, I gotta get used to technology. There we go.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay. Okay. Why is it not?
Maybe Kim does.
Sorry, the technological difficulties. I'm trying to. Yeah, just go to the next screen. Here's just some information for everybody. Obviously, my office number 686-3928. Anybody's got any questions? My email address is ddombrowski@tocny.org. Next, please. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. Some of this information was provided to us during a supervisors roundtable. I believe I sent all this information to all the council members. This just kind of illustrates some of the trends that are going on over the last couple of years as far as, property tax and levy growths. So once again, this is kind of the trends that we're seeing within the county. Next slide, please. Here's another graph that shows some trends between most of the towns in Erie County, except I think there was a couple that were excluded. But as you can see by the orange line, expenditures are exceeding the operating funds. So if anybody thinks that the town is in this situation alone, they are not. These are trends that are going across every town and municipality. Next slide, please. Some of the current trends that we're seeing. Expenditures as a town are categorized into several budget priorities. Public safety accounts and represents for 22% of the total expenditures. Employee benefits have increased from 24.4 to 24.8. I think anybody that has health insurance, that's quite obvious. Debt service costs have varied. There has been a notable increase of 6.2% in 24. Fund balances and financial health. The fund balances of Erie County towns indicate their financial ability and ability to maintain future expenses. Available fund balances have peaked at 160.5 million in 22. However, they decreased down to 115.2 million in 2024. Obviously, people are tapping into their reserves, trying to find money to, once again, close the gap on things. However, it is taking away and decreasing the fund balances. The ratio of unassigned and unassigned appropriated operating funds to average total expenditures has declined from basically 0.8 in 2022 to 0.2 in 2024. So I think we can all see where these trends are going. Next slide. Okay, next slide, please. Impact on the trends on the levy. Current trends and potential budget cuts will significantly affect the levy required, which we all know, that's kind of obvious. Current budget for operating funds, once again, this is countywide, 22 million with a levy of $11 million. Uncontrollable budget costs are estimated at 16.5 million, leading to a required levy increase of 737,000 or 6.7%. If cuts are assumed, the required levy increase could be reduced to 407,000 or 3.7%. So once again, these are county trends with all the towns in Erie County. So as you can see, we're not the only ones in this situation. Next page, please. Some current trends. As you can see, the current trend, budget operating funds levy, pretty much the same. Trending increase in expenses, the impacts on the levy, it's actually decreasing. You have an increase in fixed budget costs. Trending revenue increase is at 2.3%. That can vary. And then once again, based on the current trends, it's 737. It's assuming if we do budget cuts, we can get down to 407. However, the percentage increase, as you can see, if we do no budget cuts, it's at 6.7. If we do, we can get it down to 3.7. But what this is telling me is the inevitability that there's going to have to be a tax increase. Unless we decide today to cut some major services, we're going to be in this position as well. Next slide. Once again, this is just an analysis over the last 15 years of sales tax and where it's been trending. Obviously, it's been going up. 2023 it peaked, 2024 it came down a little bit. However, I caution everybody to say that that's not necessarily increased business. That is probably an effect of higher pricing. What we used to pay $10 for and pay 80 cents in taxes is now $15, which is now, obviously you're paying more taxes, which adds to that. I'm actually looking to get some more statistical information to find out, once again, is it related to just price increases? Because if that's the case, then that's offset by our price increases and then what we have to cover for our expenses. Because what we were paying $10 for, we're paying $15 for now. So I want to look into that a little further just to see where the actual trends are heading. But I suspect it's a lot of the increases due to just, once again, the economic condition and prices going up. Once again, here are some of kind of the estimates by the towns that have reported everything. And based on some estimates and some growths, you know, you can see what it would look like if it was a 2% decline or 1%, 0%. So they gave you some ideas of where towns are going with this. And that's really all I have right now. I just wanted to really kind of go over the trends to let everybody know that, once again, this is not just the town of Cheektowaga. This is a countywide, statewide problem. So I leave it up to you. You guys are the ones here that have to make those decisions. So just to give you some more helpful information. And once again, I did send this out, so I'm hopefully this is nothing new and you've kind of already read this information. So thank you.
I have a question.
Sure. Yeah.
Councilmember Benchkowski.
Did they give you actual percentage sales tax increase to expect this year? This seems like this year, those trends were going up for next year, I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of floating pretty much even. Well, with the increase in taxes and the increase in expenses, it's kind of almost somewhat washing itself.
Our revenue, sales tax revenue, what I'm saying that we get.
They did not give us, once again, this kind of shows you the estimate based on some certain percentages, but with the economic future,
They didn't,
we
okay.
can't go. Once again, I know the bed tax, which I'm sure Supervisor Nowak can probably speak on a little bit more. But yeah, I don't see a very big tax increase or revenue increase on that,
Sales tax.
on sales tax, correct?
If I could speak to the council member's question, I've got documents from the supervisors roundtable we went to
Yeah.
with Brian Kraus. The most recent numbers I have here are the projected 2025, and that's got us at 12.65 million. It's 12.646 to be exact, but $12.65 million is the projected income for 2025.
I just needed the percentage increase.
Yeah, in terms of a percentage increase from 24 to 25, they've got it at about 3.3% compared to our actual 2024. But that's, again, that's not for 2026, that's for 2025.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions from council members relating to this presentation? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I think you're all set, Dennis.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm sure I'll be back.
All right. So with that, today's meeting is to help us work together to get to a preliminary budget for 2026. The agenda item, again, was one single item. Is there anybody that would like to start in terms of ideas, suggestions that they have? All right. I'll give you guys just a moment to get situated.
Question, how we're going to proceed is, so are we going to, I have a lot of suggestions. It might take us hours to go through them. So how do we want to handle this? Do we want to vote on each item or go through our suggestions, talk about them and decide?
This is an open forum as the board would like to use. I see you. I will get to you in just a moment. We can either define a time limit we want to adhere to, or I'm here all day myself, or we can cover a handful of suggestions and then just check in with each other to see where we're at and work from there. Councilman Pilarski, what do you got?
Well, I guess we should discuss what is our end goal. I mean,
I
we do
agree.
have a resolution on for next meeting for a public hearing. Will that go through? Will it not go through? Because is there some thought, hey, we could possibly go over the tax cap, or that's cut and dry, set in stone, we're not. So what is our goal? Are we getting to the 2.56, or is there some wiggle room by this board to say, okay, maybe 3%, maybe 4% is a way to go? But without having an end goal, what dollar amount we need to get to start making cuts off of, with our starting point of being your tentative budget and then working backwards there, we could be here all day spinning our wheels.
So with that, Brian Kraus, can you remind the board of the dollar amount increase and or the percentage increase that we can take on to keep us under the tax cap levy?
Yeah, so the the state tax cap levy for the town of Cheektowaga, which is, I went on their website. There is a formal website that you enter our information in, and there's adjustments related to pilots, as well as there's an inflation factor. There's also certain things that are allowed to be excluded related to police retirement if it goes over a certain amount. So going through the formality of the calculation, it came out to be a 2.58% increase, which is the tax cap for the town of Cheektowaga. That equates to, I'm going to call it $1.9 million. The actual number is $1,898,206. So to stay within the tax cap, that's the maximum increase we can have, $1,898,206. We are currently looking at a tax increase, levy increase of $5,589,988. So we'll call that 5.6. So ultimately, to get to the tax cap, you need to cut I'm just going to round it up to $3.7 million of spending, or allocate more fund balance again, which I would not recommend, but I mean, these are the options. And so really you need to have an impact on the tax levy by $3.7 million to get it to the tax cap, allowable tax cap.
I appreciate that, Brian. So thinking about where we go with our discussions here, do we want to cover high level items first? And what I mean by that is discussions about fund balance, discussions about sales tax, mortgage tax revenues, some of those big items. Do we want to talk about forecasts for things like the hotel bed tax, for instance, and start there? Or do we want to get into the specifics first with whether it's particular services, particular budget lines, and making reductions that way? I'm happy to go either direction. I don't know what the board feels would be most productive. Councilmember Benchkowski?
I think, yeah, I'd like to start at the revenue side, because I think we might have underestimated some revenues anyway. So if we could look at the revenues, that would help us bring more in or budget for more revenues besides the tax levy.
Sure. Okay, so if you guys got your budget binders, let's head over to where are we at? Just so we're all working from the same information, the budget prep report tab. If you go behind that there are revenues for the general fund that start on page 1 of 157. I'll give everybody a moment to get there. All right, and regarding the revenue forecast, our revenue basically comes from 3 areas as a town. We get the tax levy, our use of fund balance, and then what I call everything else. So everything else, if you go back the last 5 years to COVID, you can see forecasts, with 2020 being an exception, where the revenue forecasts compared to actuals, there was a gap that was pretty consistent, that's followed its way into the 2024 budget, the 2025 budget, and the 26 budget that is in front of all of us has got the same methodology and forecasting that's based on that. It's on the more conservative side of things. So with that, Councilmember Benchkowski, did you want to start?
Okay, yeah. Page 1, the final current projection for fines and forfeited bail money is $725, or $800,000, but you only budgeted $725,000. So I'd like to increase that to $800,000. I don't know what everybody else thinks about that.
Again, this is, I'm going to do my best to just listen today and not share my thoughts, but I do want to note for point of information, the recommended level was 700,000, and that in 23 we had a level of $668,000, and our final current projection right now is looking closer to 800 for 2025, and that I increased from 700 to 7. I overrode the budget or the finance director's recommendation by adding 25,000. So I'm going to hold back on my opinion of the recommendation and listen to the board here.
Could I just ask Brian Kraus, who determines the final current projection? Do you? I thought you did, right?
Generally, it's me, yes. I mean, there are, I do ask each department head to provide me their estimates. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Generally, I'll do it based on historical knowledge of how things, whether things are coming in month by month or seasonally. But, a lot of these revenue lines are pretty consistent from one year to the next. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and the general fund or the justice court, they do bring in monthly fees. So I think what ultimately we came up with was, figuring out where we were through the year and ultimately annualizing that amount.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my recommendation is we increase that revenue to 800,000, and then the opioid settlement revenue, we've been on point with $5,800. You only budgeted 5,000, so I suggest we budget $5,800, 5,800.
Point of information on that, we did have 8,000 in 24 and we had 0 in 2023. The final projection says 5,805.
My concern with this revenue for the courts is the fact that it's fuzzy math. I mean, the fact that it's getting out more and more that those in the system are realizing that there's no consequences for not paying their fines. I believe that number is only going to go down as more people become aware of that there's no consequences. There's no bench warrant, there's no arrest, there's no late fees, there's no additional fines. I mean, we just heard from the judges that they're sitting on 1.2 million. We can throw fuzzy numbers here in the revenue side of this for the courts and say, hey, we're going to collect $4 million. On paper, it balances our budget, but what are we able to actually collect and enforce? This isn't like fines like, and a building inspector goes out and finds a house or anything. We could follow up with that and get that funding that's owed to us one way or another. This, we just get, hey, I'm not paying it, and there's no consequences for it. Forfeited bail, there's no more bail, with bail reform, so we're not collecting revenues on that. It's really just tickets and fines, but there's no enforcement that we can possibly take due to New York state laws. So I wouldn't project too high on this because I think it would be irresponsible to balance our budget on fuzzy numbers.
Just as a point of information, again, I've got numbers going back to 21. The actual revenues in 2021 was $799,500 approximately. In 2022, it was approximately $773,000. That was 2022, and so it's a decline. In 2023, there was another decline to $668,000, but we had an increase in 2024 up to $795,000. So I saw a downward trend that led to the conclusion on that number. One other point of information here is that the projection of the 2024 fines was $650,000, and it did come in at $795,000. That projection was based on a downward trajectory that was in the few previous budgets up to 24. And again, it's the board decisions to make, but those are the numbers that created a trend that informed my forecast.
But can I just tell you that part of that trend you're mentioning in 2022, I believe, when did you start? 2021, we were dealing with COVID where the courts were actually closed for several months. that nothing was happening that year, I believe.
Yeah, 21 was at 799,500, and then 2022, getting further away from COVID. I saw you, Councilman. I'm sorry. That was down. That was a downward to $773,000 in 2022. In 2023, we dropped again to 668,200 approximately. Councilman Thompson?
This is for Brian Kraus. So you came up with the final current projection of 800,000, is that correct?
Yes.
And may I ask why you came up with that projection and what impact that has on the current budget? Because if you're requesting 700 for the following year, I'm just trying to understand the logic behind that.
I mean, as I just stated before, there's monthly revenues. So at the time that I was accumulating budget information in September, I just pretty much did the math on, okay, if we've been through 6 months, 7 months of the year at the time, and I divided it by 7 and multiplied it by 12 to annualize it and came up with that number. I'm sure it wasn't an exact number of 800,000. Ultimately, I know that people struggle with this, but the budget is a plan. We can't come up with exact numbers all the time, and so you come up with revenues, and a good budget practice is to budget your revenues conservatively lower, and if they come in higher, great. And I understand you don't want them to be too low, but you don't want them to be too aggressive, because when you budget them to a finer number and you come up short, that has a negative impact on our budget. We appropriate an amount of fund balance in our budget every year. We don't expect to use all that, and the reason why is because we budget revenues somewhat conservatively, and you get some extra revenues, and therefore you're helping to try to bring in some additional revenues. And you also budget on the appropriation side, and it's not likely, it's almost impossible to spend every dollar that's budgeted in the budget. I mean, especially when it comes to like payroll, you say, okay, there's going to be X number of laborers in highway, and then there's turnover, people retire. So there's vacancies in the budget or in the expenditures. The actual expenditures are less because we didn't have a full year of a laborer then, because somebody retired and it took a month to replace them. So, I mean, the reason why you don't expect to use your full appropriated fund balance is because you're going to have less expenditures than you appropriated, and you're going to have more revenue than you planned for. So as you budget each of these numbers tighter, ultimately, if you have a fund balance that you're going to be using, you are actually going to use the fund balance, is what I'm saying. So I know people don't like to hear this, but I mean, we continue to appropriate more fund balance each year, and we've done it for the last 4 years, or 3 years. The previous 3 years, we increased appropriated fund balance by $1.6 million, $2.9 million, $4.4 million. So as you do that, you're going to use more fund balance. And so everybody talks about wanting to replenish the fund balance. You can't do that with this trend right now. So that's all I'm saying is I respect that people want to budget these numbers more finely, more accurately, and you have the right to do that. But as you do that, you're just going to use more fund balance.
Thank you for that. But I guess what I was looking for is a little bit more fine-tuned question to your projection of the 800,000, and you said you divided that to come up with that figure. And based on that, that doesn't sound to be conservative. So I'm just trying to understand how that was conservative.
That's a projection. It's not the budget. So that's why, I mean, it's likely that that number is going to come in 2025 at $800,000. I don't know what else. I mean, that's just our projection.
Ask the question a different way, and I don't know if this will help clarify it. The projection came about because when the budget was being prepared, the average monthly income for fines and forfeited bail within that budget line was about $67,000, 66,000 and change, 66,666 to be nearly precise. And basically it was taken, seeing the real income on a monthly basis, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. It may have even included August, and saying that's how much we have for these 7 to 8 months. So we're taking that monthly average, multiplying it by 12, and that got us to approximately $800,000, correct?
Yes.
So we got to this number because of looking at actuals for the first portion of the year. And I know the binder shows 462, 959 here for actuals. Now, I can run the math, but I don't know when that number was actually pulled, but that's the methodology of where that came from. And I think if you asked the 7 of us what this number should be, I bet you we get more than 2 different answers. Brian Kraus and I came to 2 different answers of what we think we should do, and there's still another recommendation, and I'm sure there will be others. Any other council members on this? Does that help make more sense of that, Councilman?
Sure, yeah, thank you.
Do you feel it addresses your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Anybody else on this line? All right.
Actually, Supervisor, I do. Just to correct Councilman Pilarski, the uncollected funds right now sit at 2.4 million. Yeah. Which I would also consider that, once again, just because that's what we charge and that's what we find is not necessarily what we collect. So once again, increasing that number, taking into consideration uncollectibles, that's going to decrease the amount of cash we actually bring in. So take that into consideration as well.
Going to the next, this might be for Dennis. You mentioned, was it 3.7? That could be decreased in the budget, or 3.7 that we can cut in spending. Is that?
Once again, that was based on county trends and their recommendations, that if we did foresee those cuts, it would get us down to the 3.7. But the reality is what are we cutting to get down to that number?
Okay, I apologize. I thought there were like cuts that you
No, that
recommended.
based on current trends, the cap, if everybody just stood put, would be 7%, I think it was. If we do take certain cuts into consideration, we could get it down 3.7 based on what everybody was saying. But once again, that's assuming, like we did, just an overall 1% reduction, not looking line by line to see if that's actually correct. So that's taken into a lot of assumptions, but we could get it down to 3.7 by doing some shell game, like he was saying, borrowing for fund balances and everything else. But once again, caution. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Councilman Benchkowski.
Vern, I think Brian Kraus said we need to cut 3.7 million today
Yeah,
out of this budget.
I was asking if the controller came up with recommendations for cuts in that amount. That was, I guess, my question.
Okay, all right.
Yes, I did. However, as I said in the last hearing, both on Thursday and Friday of those days, and the emails that I sent, there's nowhere to cut. I'm finding the nickels and dimes, but I'm not finding the big ticket items. And once again, I think we're going right back to where we are because of the CBA agreements, the cost of inflation, inefficiencies within our operations. However, like I said, for one example, I was looking at Senior Center and our Meals on Wheels program. Found out that that does not go into just our residents, that goes into a general fund. For the record, only 242 people within the town of Cheektowaga actually get provided those services. But yeah, we're spending $57,000 in a donation to a general fund. And we're also giving them free space in our senior services center with no rent. So that's one cut. I know we also went and found another $15,000 in the parks department. Youth and Rec, we decided we were going to cancel out the Sunday concert series, but once again, these are low ticket items. And as a matter of fact, as we go through this meeting, I'm keeping track of what we increase, what we decrease, to see where we come out. Right now, based on cutting the Meals on Wheels and you increasing that, that's $100,000. So keep going.
Could I just ask you, Dennis, about the Meals on Wheels? So we're paying $57,000 to them, and then the residents still have to pay for the Meals on Wheels.
That is correct, but I think that's based on the household income, and there's some things
Correct,
in
but
that.
it's not-
But yes,
not like-
when I had to provide Meals for Wheels for my grandmother, yes, it was out of pocket
Right,
on top of it.
okay.
So on that topic, I'd love to address that one. Just doing the math with the numbers that were just spit out, we're giving $57,000 a year to Meals on Wheels. It's listed on the budget as a donation. I don't know why it's listed as a donation. I think it should be listed as a grant. That might be a little easier to understand, but either way, donation, grant, whatever, they're getting $57,000 from the town of Cheektowaga to provide meals to Cheektowaga residents. Yes, it's going into a general fund, but it is directly going to the seniors that are receiving meals. And based off of the numbers that were just spit out, we have 246 seniors, I think you just said. Divide that by the 57,000, that leaves $231 per senior that is getting meals for the year. Divide that by the 260 weekdays in a year that they're receiving a meal, and some receive meals on the weekends. These are all seniors that are homebound, seniors that cannot get to the senior center to have a meal. So this may be their only meal for the day. It equals 89 cents per meal that the town is contributing with this $57,000 to help feed these 246 seniors. So I think it's a good investment. Ultimately, it's going to fall back on these seniors anyways. And if we're talking about whether we increase senior exemptions or we contribute 89 cents per meal for the seniors, either way you go at it, somehow the senior is going to end up paying if the town doesn't help Meals on Wheels with this little bit. I'd love to invite Meals on Wheels in for maybe Tuesday's board meeting to explain it a lot better than I could, because that is their, expertise and their wheelhouse. But I think for 89 cents a meal for these 246 seniors, I think it's money well spent, in my opinion.
Are they paying into that also, do you know? Because Dennis just mentioned that the seniors are paying for those
They're paying a
meals,
portion
too.
based off of income. So it's income based. So not all the seniors are paying the same thing. It's based off of a table and a scale. So some may be paying the full dollar amount right out of their pockets. Some may not be able to afford any of it, may have a lower dollar amount. Some may have no dollar amount. And this is where this funding helps bridge that gap to help feed them. But that is something Meals on Wheels could explain a lot better, and should explain better than me, because I don't want to be incorrect by saying. I know they're paying something, is all I'm saying.
However, no other town pays that $57,000 except us.
Whether they do or don't, I don't think we should gauge it based off of no other town doing it. I'm personally good with investing into our seniors and spending 89
I
cents
am
per
too.
meal. just because West Seneca's not doing it or the city of Buffalo. I know the city of Buffalo is not that, I'll guarantee. I know for a fact, but just because another town's not doing it doesn't make it right. Or just because another town is doing it does make it right. So I always hate when we compare ourselves to what other towns are or are not doing. Now, if they have a best practice that's working, I get it. But because if they're not supplying a service, I think it's not cookie cutter for each town and each municipality on what services are provided and how they're provided.
But that particular one, though, all the towns benefit from that. That's what I'm saying. Other
Throughout
towns
Erie
benefit from
County.
Meals on Wheels.
Throughout Erie County.
Correct.
Out of
So
Erie
they
County,
serve
so why are
all.
we paying to
But
help the other towns?
But we're not. If you
Yeah.
do the math here of the 57,000, yes, it goes into a general fund and then it
That
goes.
helps everybody.
But I guess if we were to say, hey, Meals on Wheels, will you create another budget line just says Cheektowaga on it and that 57 goes there? Well, there's coming out of their general fund, no different than the way we operate, is if money's coming out of our general fund and it's serving youth and rec versus seniors, it's still serving the residents of Cheektowaga one way or another. So I get the point of, hey, it's going in their general fund. It could be serving others, but at 89 cents a meal, I think it's far-fetched to say we're serving all of Erie County.
Last year, I asked our senior services director, Carrie Peak, if that funding stopped today, would this service stop today? She said no. That was on the record. I
Correct.
specifically asked that question.
I don't think it would come to a screeching
Okay.
halt. I think with the federal cuts that have already come down to Meals on Wheels nationally, and then you compound this on top of it, it's going to fall back on the seniors one way or another. They'll just have to pay more, is all I'm saying.
Before we go any further, Councilman Jazinski was looking to be recognized.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Pilarski. We do have to take care of our senior citizens, but I do recall of Councilmember Pilarski along with Supervisor Nowak voting no on the full senior exemption for the full allowable per the law. So, I mean, we're talking about stuff, taking care of the people who are most vulnerable in our town. So I agree, we have to feed them, but also let's look historically on the way you voted. You're saying here today that you're in favor of taking care of the seniors and feeding them, which by all means, we need to take care of them. But yet you voted no 3 times on giving them the full tax exemption per New York State. So I'm just confused on your explanation of taking care of the seniors.
Yes, you could sit up here and campaign and put that resolution in for next Tuesday's meeting as well. And I'm going to vote no on it for a 4th time because all we're doing is shifting the burden of the tax exemptions for your assessments. So yes, I'll vote a 4th time and no on that as well. But I am for taking care of our seniors. And if you want to sit up here and debate, we could do that, or we could actually address the budget on where we're making cuts, where we're going to have better revenues and balance this budget. So to your call on what you want to do.
Opening it back up to the council. Councilmember
I'm sorry, I don't want to keep beating this drum, but do we get like a report from them as far as like every year how many meals were served and like you say your breakdown, your money went here, your X amount cost, or is there administrative costs that we're paying for also through the program? I don't know.
The grant that we give, the donation that we give is basically to help support Feed More's operations as a whole. We could absolutely get information, as we heard here, well over
I would
200
just
town residents.
think any grant that you supply, you have to reciprocate with, okay, this is where your money went. This is what we're using your money for. You know what I mean? Instead of just handing somebody a check and saying, go ahead, go do it. I mean, I'm all for it.
I agree with you 100%. What is the outcome?
Right.
Are people better off because of this funding or any funding, And I feel the exact same way. We've said it about Polish Festival. We've said it about the symphony.
Absolutely.
And Meals on Wheels, no different. Would like a report on it and say, well, hey, are we better off? Whether or not they're giving senior services that report, I don't have that answer, but I would love to invite them. Would you guys be okay if they came next Tuesday and presented and actually had
I don't
numbers?
think we need to,
He was here wasn't he here last year?
yeah.
They were here last year, but they can give us the numbers if you want, or do you just want an email with the numbers?
No, I have no question that they provide good services. All I'm saying is that this donation we're giving, the town of Cheektowaga is giving. That's all.
How did 57,000 come up? I mean, how did that initially start?
We had a number that was in budgets going back many years, and from time to time, Feed More and their predecessors reached out to the town for asking for.
We've been contributing
So
over
it's,
years.
Diane may remember, that, what was it, around 55,000 in budgets before you left office. Your last one was 55. They asked for an increase in it, and I didn't give them the full increase they requested, but I did bump it up $2,500. And that's how we got to 57. It should be 57,250 in the book there.
Correct, it is, it is. Now, I'm in favor of continuing to have this Meals on Wheels for the seniors, no doubt, okay? Our seniors do need the help. However, when just finding out, the town residents are only 246? 242 residents. Why can't we just cut this? Down maybe down to 30,000.
I hear what you're saying. If the question's to me directly, I'm here just to facilitate the meeting with the council members this morning. I'll say objectively speaking, we are not contractually required to give the money that we give to Feed More. And I'll leave it at that because I don't want to inject value judgments. I'm here to listen to your thoughts on the budget. Mr. Jasinski?
So I'm just trying to, see if I understand this correctly. So no matter what the contribution is, this will not impact this program, period.
It will not.
I proposed a budget and it's there for you guys to make decisions on. That's your decision to make whether or not you think it will impact the program. I projected a number in there for 57,250.
Well, we're trying to, help the very people we talk about, the seniors. And, we talk about nickels and dimes and stuff, but those nickels and dimes start adding up to dollars and thousands of dollars and eventually millions of dollars. So I just want to understand correctly, if this contribution has zero impact on the seniors receiving these meals, we're trying to help them as well, because I talk to a lot of seniors in the community, as I'm sure a lot of us do. They're being negatively impacted by the current tax burden in this town. There's seniors that have paid off their houses 10, 20, and some even 30 years ago that look at their tax bill and they're like, geez, I contributed all my life to society when I was in the working class. And now that I'm in the golden years of my life, when I'm supposed to enjoy my life and just enjoy family and whatever family they may have left, now we're here saying that we want to help seniors, but yet I don't see us, saying that we're ready to make any necessary cuts. And if this cut doesn't impact their need for food, why wouldn't it be into consideration? Because it's been clearly stated that if this cut's made, it will not impact their ability to receive meals. So just to clarify that.
Any other council members want to take up the Feed More item, the donation there, or the Justice Court, or should we move on?
We're never going to agree on anything.
Well,
It almost,
as long as I got more discussions. As we're in discussions with this, I'll give you some more information that is interesting. And these are big ticket items. Looking at youth and recreation, once again, the white elephant in the room is the use of the pools. Right now, we currently spend $64,000 to operate the pools for 2 months. Now, I'm not in favor of closing all the pools, but based on the hearings and the attendance at the pools, I think there's room to close 2 of them. Now, that's not say that's a permanent closure, but until we can get ourselves back on track, that may be something to consider.
I agree, because I grew up in the city and we had quite a bunch of public pools, and as the attendance shrank and the need for more tax dollars increased, the city did shut down some of the pools I remember as a young child going to, and they consolidated some. So we definitely want to give these children the ability to have some summer activities, especially when it's very hot out. But as you said, if the attendance is low and it's not creating revenue enough to keep that pool functional, I would tend to concur that we should maybe consider consolidating some of that.
Or like Dennis said, close it maybe for a year or something, I don't know, or a couple of those schools. We did do that during COVID, and that helped. Or reduce the hours, days of the week, 3 days, 1 pool, 3 another.
It's either all or nothing, in my opinion, because if you're reducing hours or alternating or whatever you're doing, you still got to put the chemicals in the pool. So there's still that cost. You still have to have the pool filled. You still have to have lifeguards, for the alternate days. So to me, why would you even fill the pool up? Why would you put the chemicals in if you're going to only open it up every other day or half days, because you still have all that overhead cost for that pool? And then the liability of when the pool's not open, of kids breaking into it, causing damage or risk, kid drowning because there's no lifeguard on duty because they're not open. So to me, if this board's going to make that decision for a pool, it would be all or nothing and not part-time.
And just to let you know, the total payroll for those 2 months, bathhouse attendants is at 58,000, supervisors 74,000, lifeguards, and these are all part-time employees, 260,000. So that's a total of 392,000 for 2 months.
Well, it's 6 weeks, really. It's not even full 2 months. Okay. So, Councilman Pilarski, we've made some suggestions here. You're not for any of them, so let's hear what yours are.
I'm definitely not for the human service side of cutting any of those services. Some of my cuts would include Polish Fest. I said it from day one when we were going over the meeting stuff, the comptroller position, the health insurance for the comptroller position, increase for the supervisor assistant, new hires prorate them, the bingo inspector. I get there's a need for an assistant director of technology, but at this point, I don't think we could swing it. I think we need to get our overtime under control here. There's got to be a system in place on how overtime is approved, who gets it and what's it for, rather than just the decisions made, whether it's by department heads or foremen or whomever, because some of it's out of control. I don't think we need the deputy highway position. I've said that numerous times. Eliminate the deputy highway position, health insurance. Possibly close one pool. I don't think closing 2 pools out of the 3 is a good idea, seeing that they're spread on different parts of the town. I would cut the symphony. I would cut other cultural groups right now at this point. Employee recognition day I would cut. I would look at revenues. I would increase permit fees, inspections, the clerk fees, increase our bed tax a little bit, but not ever having any come in. I wouldn't get too crazy with that projection. And then I'd say, hey, we need more grants coming in for services, whether it's more state grants coming in or even our youth and rec and senior programs, different grant funding sources outside of the senior and the taxpayers' pockets for those services. So that's what I would recommend right off the top there, all while not affecting services that are being provided.
Okay, so I think we can agree on a few things, okay? I'm in agreement with the bingo inspector, of course, and the assistant director of technology, that new position created. We might have to just put that on hold. I understand Lisa's concerns, but right now we might have to do that. And the deputy highway position and the insurance for the highway superintendent or deputy?
For the deputy.
Okay. Deputy is possibly close one pool. We'll see how that goes, but that I might be in agreement depending on where we end up. That's one of those to go back to. Also, the symphony, I agree. We don't have a lot of attendance from Cheektowaga residents now for the symphony. And I'm looking, employee recognition day. Yeah, we paid for that last year ourselves.
We did. We had a little bit left over, and as I mentioned in our budget hearings, this was something that was put in the budget to make sure there was an adequate budget for it this year, this coming year, if we wanted to do it again. And, as I said in the budget presentations, that's one that I think we could cut out, but I'm here today to listen to your suggestions.
So I'd be fine. I think that the board contributing to that, remember we were barbecuing all that. That was so minimal, we should be able to just take something out of our paycheck and put it in to employee recognition. And I agree. Let's look at the bed tax increase and what was the last? Oh, more grants. What did you want to cut out of the supervisor's budget?
There was an increase for 20, and maybe if that could be explained again, maybe because I didn't take notes, I don't believe on that. There was an increase of $20,000 for his office.
Oh, no, not an increase of 20,000. The base salary is around 20,000 for my part-time part-time secretary. When I took over the office, there was money in the budget for 2 full-timers. In the 2025 budget, we reduced that from a 2 full-timers to a full-timer and a part-timer. So that part-timer salary remains being carried over from 25 to 26. You will see, as along with other department heads and management confidentials, that there were marginal wage increases there for cost of living adjustments related to what we've done for TCEA and other unions.
I didn't think you had an increase in your budget at all. You did the 1% decrease, right?
You did overall have a 1%.
Yeah, my
1.1.
office
Yeah.
reached the 1%.
Okay.
I had it highlighted in my budget here and asked what for what. So if the position,
So my full-timer, it has some PTO to be taken, other issues that may come up. There's work that the office does where we can absolutely justify having a full-timer and a part-timer covering the workload. And adding to that, if there's things that come up in the course of administering the hotel bed tax next year, it would be good to have the support of my office to help answer those questions. Case in point, we got phone calls from a couple of our hotel operators wondering if that tax has already gone into effect. So one of the many things my office has done is reach back out to those folks, told them about the public hearing and the other information they need to know about how that's going to be rolled out. So there's a lot we can do in my office to support the functions, not just of the council office, but obviously constituent services for the town as a whole.
And I think when I was supervisor, we took on putting out the bid for the clothing. That in itself is a big
Oh,
project.
please don't bring that up.
I know.
This is a big issue this year, and I've talked with some of you actually all of you on this board about lessons learned from a change there and what we have to do differently next time. So we're going to act on lessons learned with a new vendor.
Okay, can we go to the bed tax? Let's talk about that.
Yep.
I think we have to put a number other than $1.
If you want to go conservative, $1 is pretty conservative, I think.
because we've never done it.
Yeah, I get it and I understand it, but I mean, to me, I think to be conservative is like 500,000 if they're projecting 2 million.
And just on the timeline, we have the public hearing Tuesday. Procedurally, after that public hearing on Tuesday, we can pass the local law. I have spoken with Erie County. Our town attorney has spoken with Ellicottville and the city of Buffalo about how they administer the tax. What software do they use? How do they reach out to the hotel operators? How does the money make it from the front desk of a hotel room into the town's coffers and that whole trail? So all of that's moving along. I think my forecast of $1 is self-evident, and I've already spoken to that up here, so I won't say anything else. But just to inform your decision, all of that stuff is moving along right now, and we're not even through 2025.
All right, but what we want to just put a dollar amount. What were you thinking?
I would definitely go with more than $1. I mean, I can go with Tony, say 500,000,
I think that's
But
conservative.
I think that's still conservative.
still conservative on it. We're not saying, hey, we're going to get 2 million and then we
Right.
fall.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, that's good to know that we can agree on that. So we'll go with 500. And I did have a question for Brian Kraus about the mortgage tax revenue.
Council member, can you tell us what page that's on?
Oh, yeah, we're
On
three.
page three, right?
Yes. So
I
the-
just, for the
yeah.
sake of everybody up here.
So we did the bed tax. The mortgage tax, is that, are you considering that the transfer tax or the actual mortgage tax when a homeowner transfers ownership or sells their home? Because home sales have gone up. We're on page 3 of the,
We have 157.
at bottom, mortgage tax. You have it at 1,350,000. However, your final current projection is 1.9. I think we could even go up to 1.5 and be conservative because of the price of homes are going up. So usually that mortgage tax is based on price per thousand. Do you need the line item number?
Who are you speaking to, me?
Yes. Mhm.
I mean, you guys, I don't know the answer. I mean, it's a projection, it's a budget number. So if you want to be more aggressive,
I think she was asking how you came to that number.
Well, first of all, the mortgage tax, normally I have called it a transfer tax or, I forgot what the county calls it again, but it's not just based on the mortgage amount. It's usually based on the sale price of the house. 'Cause some
but it's
people
been
are
called the
paying
whole
cash.
time I've ever been here.
Pardon me?
That's what it's been called the whole
And that's
time I've
fine,
ever been
that's
here.
fine. But what I'm saying is it's really not based on the mortgage amount. You pay $4 per thousand of the sale price of the home. And with homes increasing, the dollar amounts have really skyrocketed. I think even being conservative, we can go up to 1.5 million to expect.
On the mortgage tax, just going over where we were, again, I'm going back to 2020, so that way we have a 5-year outlook. In 2020, this is according to information that Drescher Malecki provided to Dennis and Brian and I when we went to the supervisors roundtable, and we could find this in our own records. Our actuals for mortgage tax in 2020 were 1.54 million. It was just over 2 million in 2021. In 2022 was just over 2.4 million. Then it dropped to 1.46 million in 23, 1.52 million in 2024, and in 2025 we're on track for an estimated total of 1.97 million. So what informed my decisions on that is seeing that drop, not in 2020, but with 2021 or between 2022 and 2023. The way they calculate the tax has to do with the value of the home sale, correct?
Mhm.
So with it's an art form more than a science. If you're thinking about the drop in the Fed funds rate, which is going to decrease our interest earnings going into 2026, the Federal Reserve said they're going to have 2 interest rate drops and then at least 1 in 2026. Arguably, that can facilitate more home sales. But the home market has changed, and I'll leave the two of you to speak to how that's changed. But you used to be able to put a house on the market not too long ago, and you get 88 bidders for a property. Is it like that these days?
Yes.
It's still like that. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, because Bern and I are in real estate.
that's
So actually, that'll be good to know. You're right. So the mortgage is going down, the percentage or on a mortgage amount.
so that
Interest
that
rate.
Federal, yeah.
So that one of the things you have to consider is where housing prices are going. If you have a market crash and a crash in your housing prices, if you're going to drop from 2022, we were at 2.4 million to 1.4 million. That was $1 million change in direction, $1 million less in revenue. So when I saw that, I was thinking to myself, maybe we can go at 1.7, 1.8 million. And when I saw that number, I said, no, we can't, which is why I forecasted at 1.35 million rather than the 1.3 million. I've got the 24 budget in front of me, and they're forecasted at, where are we on that one? 1.25 million. That mortgage forecast was kept the same in that budget. So again, that's another piece of it is that, hey, those numbers haven't been tweaked with over the years. And say we take this number up another $300,000 and we have a drop in housing sales. We're not going to bring in as much revenue. That's just speaking about it objectively. I'm not saying what is the right or the wrong answer. Those are just some of the things that inform the number that I put here and why it's not higher.
Well, don't forget, we're not looking at the trend. Everybody's saying we're short on housing. That's why we're getting all these developers coming in, wanting to bring in apartments and so forth. So I don't see
Not
that
going
trend
down.
going down at all. We need housing, so people are going to be going and buying these homes. You're going to be getting minimum 3 to 4 offers on a house. So
if what is it looking like in the market? You guys know this better than I do in terms of cash purchases. Because I know when I talk to people, they talk about folks that are buying houses in cash these days. Is that happening more often or less often?
A lot more.
I don't know. I don't know for
Think it's a
sure.
lot more? So, I mean, there's no mortgage on a cash purchase, right?
But I don't think this is really a mortgage.
This is not.
So it's about where the revenue comes from on this, and I'm just asking about the information about what feeds into this. And it's on the board for your judgment on where you think the number should be.
It's just me, but I think we're approaching this backwards. I mean, we all agree there should be cuts. Why don't we go straight down the line, put our cuts out there? Because we just spent an hour on projected revenues that are what if numbers or could be numbers or fuzzy math numbers or wishful. What is our end goal? We need to make cuts. We all know that. So let's list out our cuts. I just listed all mine. Let's go right down the line.
Wait a minute, you're forgetting you don't need just cuts, you need more revenue too.
Correct, but we're balancing our budget off of the reserve, which got us into this mess, and we're balancing our budget off of projected numbers, which could tank or go one direction or could be higher or be lower. Those are projected numbers, guesstimates. Why don't we make the cuts first and say, okay, this is our end number we need to get to, because we're going to spend probably hours going over what should and what shouldn't be cut. And then we agree on what our number is and then say, how do we get there? That is our goal. That is our benchmark.
So do we just put a resolution in and just say, hey, these are the 30 items looking to be cut? Is that what you want?
So ultimately, that's how we lower the budget and
You want
change,
that right
change
now?
the supervisor's budget. Correct. We all get on the same page on what should be cut. If we all agree that, hey, the deputy highway position
Part of
shouldn't
the
be in this
formula.
budget, yes, it should be cut. Boom. And now we're doing backwards math here to say this is our end goal. We got to get there. Now, are our projections off? Can we change things? Is this too high? This too low? Do we need to take more out of the reserve, or can we put the money back into the reserve? Do we need it at all? We don't know that until we know our end. What we're trying to do right now is pay for some things that we're already in agreement that should be cut. So let's take off the things we all agree on first and say that's the bottom. Then we could debate over the other items like Meals on Wheels or something, which I am against, and majority sounds like they are. So then that gets cut. Then we go that route, is my opinion, for time and efficiency.
Well, I agree. We passed a resolution to cut the budget by 1%. And what I would have done if I was supervisor, I would have challenged each department head to show me where they're going to make their necessary cuts instead of sitting there at the podium and wasting 2 days of my time and the taxpayers' time, crying and complaining that they need all this funds. So we already passed the resolution for 1% to be cut. So it's up to us to challenge our department heads to see where they're going to make their cuts. I mean, I agree. We're wasting time. Talking about one item, we should have already had that. I challenged mine. I'm on only a small handful of committees. Myself and Councilmember Thompson, we made our cut. And I think we made a pretty significant cut, all things considered. And the end result is we got a better source of service. We got a better source of service, and we cut our budget in one of the largest departments in this town. So I agree with you. We're wasting a lot of time going back and forth. We could spend 3 days trying to decipher this. I think we should go back. We should have gone back and challenged all our department heads. Where do you plan on making cuts? Because I know as a citizen in this town, with the cost of living going up, I had to find out where I had to make cuts in my budget for my house and where I'm going to stretch the dollar and stuff like that. So I agree. We need to focus on where the cuts are.
Let me interject here. If you don't recall, I did send an email out on a Monday, and I asked every council member up here, and I've even invited those council members to these department head meetings. And you know what I got? Nothing. Not one person showed up at those meetings to discuss and meet with those Well, I correct that. So the Supervisor Nowak did attend those, just so we had representation.
I've been there too.
I agree.
I was there
agree.
yesterday. We just had a meeting yesterday. So I think that's partially false. But at the end of the day, Mike, let's go straight down the line. What are your cuts you recommend? Not go back to the department heads. The department heads were already given a task to cut their budgets or present what they needed. The board as a majority said, hey, cut 1%. That was given as a tentative, as an option as well, but it's not the supervisor's budget. At the end of the day, the buck stops with this board. It is our job to make cuts, not pass the buck and say, hey, what do you recommend? I'm going to take a line right out of your book, Mike. What do you recommend we cut then?
So I recommend cutting, the number of council members we have on this board, first of all, because it seems like there's a little bit of indecisiveness. Secondly, by no fault of anybody's who has a full-time regular job, we can't make all these department head meetings, myself and a few others on this board, because we do have a full-time job, because there's not a person probably in the median income who could afford to just live off of what we do here. So I think we take this job because we do care about our town, but we do see some things, differently as far as policies and stuff like that. First of all, I agree with you. There's several things that I agree with. We don't need a bingo inspector. I think we should, close down one pool and see how that works. The bed tax, I think that's a very conservative number. The highway superintendent, we don't need that. So there's overtime that we have in some of these departments that we shouldn't have. So yes, I agree. There are many places, and like I said, how much time do you have? I mean, we have proposed, budget cuts, but we also have to consider some of us can't just live off of what this council job pays us. So to our defense, I would love to. I'd love to cut this down to a 4-member board with a supervisor and make it a full-time position. So where we can spend the time and dig into some of these. So I've spending evenings till sometimes 12 midnight trying to look at this budget to see where I can make cuts, and then have to be up at 4:30 in the morning to be at my regular job. So I think we all have ideas. I just think we need to come up with a common solution. We need to have cuts. I agree.
So your logic to downsize the board actually costs us more money because you want to make them a full-time position. So you take that $22,000 position, turn it into, let's say you took the 22 from the other 2 council members you cut, gave it to 2 other council members. It's a $44,000 position plus the health benefits that the board already receives. So it's really going to cost us more because you got to add another 22,000 to the other 2 council members. If you're going with a low number of 44, which probably isn't livable to you. So you'd probably project a $60,000 position. So downsizing the board and making them full-time positions actually increases the budget, not decreases it.
I want to use some of your buzzwords. Those are fuzzy numbers. That's fuzzy math. So I mean,
fuzzy.
What's fuzzy? Break it down for me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're asking where we want to make cuts.
Guys, I interjected where I shouldn't. We're going to let Mr. Jasinski quickly finish his thought, go over to Mr. Filipski.
Thank you. So one thing is so when you run for office and you have an elected position to run for, and you're full aware of the salary, you shouldn't win the election and then come in the next board meeting and ask for a $10,000 raise. So I propose we take that stipend back from the town clerk.
Here's where I stand. Republicans didn't make the tax cap. I don't want to get political, but that's a fact. The Democrat Party in Albany did. It's a law. We keep hearing, well, if we raise taxes this year, it's going to, just one more year. It kind of sounds like the reasoning we got for subcontracting. Just give us one more year, and the next year, and the next, but next year never comes. So to me, let's get down to the cap. And we have to make hard choices. The 2 best words that were spoken during the 2-day budget hearings were from Scott Kowal when he said tough love. That's what's got to happen. We've all had it very good for a long time. Now there's tough times. We got elected to make tough decisions. If I'm not sitting here in January because I didn't get reelected, because I made decisions people didn't like, so be it. I have to look myself in the mirror and do what's best. I'm getting phone calls, and I've talked to a lot of people. Don't go over the cap. Start getting things under control. Doing our own work is a big first step forward to that, and nobody is going to change my mind on that. I'm sorry. I'm not saying doing it all, but doing the majority of our work instead of just sending it all to subcontractors. Perfect examples look right outside the door, which I was told several times by the experts in town that our highway could not do that job. They're almost done, and they've done a great job.
Let me interject on that. I'd like you to know that they've only spent 2 hours every day doing that parking lot. That parking lot could have been done by Tuesday afternoon. It sits right out my office. They don't start till 9:30 and they're gone by noon. And the other day they were in at 9 o'clock and they were done by 11. So they may do quality work, but it takes them forever. And I have witnesses that were standing there looking at 8 guys standing around and 2 guys working. So that's our issue with labor.
But that's a supervisory problem. That's a
Absolutely.
planning problem.
No, that is a working relationship between the union because we can get into that sidebar, but I was over there. I've talked to Councilman Pilarski about it. We've had situations. It's our labor, it's our employees not cooperating with us. Yes, we have management that wants to go out there and do that. But once again, this parking lot, that should have been done by Tuesday. And here we are on Friday and I still got steel plates and a hazard in the parking.
They were told to stop a few times too. So regardless, I don't care if it took them 6 months. We didn't pay somebody to do it. We paid our people to do it. We didn't double pay. We didn't, that's my point. And my other point is where I was told since January that they can't do it. They're unable. They're not trained. It's not safe. They're not skilled enough. That's my point. I don't care how long it took them. I really don't. They're doing it.
Well, the problem is time is money. And if they're spending all this time, taking a week to do a parking lot, what's going to take them to do a street? And when they got 100
I
streets to do?
understand that. I'm not even saying that. I'm making an example where I've been told repeatedly that they can't do anything, which is ridiculous. They can do stuff. I'm not saying do it all. I'm not saying they have to tear down a whole street. I'm not saying that. You talk to West Seneca, you talk to Lancaster. I know you don't like comparing. I get that. They do 90% of their own work.
Plus,
We
it's
don't.
good practice for our employees to learn how to do it first. So with that statement saying that they're not qualified, yeah, sure, maybe it will take them a little longer, but now they're gaining the skill needed in order to learn how to do these certain things. And we always talk about reinvesting in our employees. This is a great way of doing it. We're going to incur that cost regardless. They're going to get a 40+ hour paycheck usually, especially with the inclement weather coming. So I think, yeah, maybe it will take a little longer for somebody that maybe specializes in saw cutting or doing trenches and stuff. But I think it's a good investment. We're not incurring any additional cost. And I think it's great for our employees to do it. I think that's a great showmanship for our town employees to say, hey, we're willing to take this on. And, I think it's a great way. It's a start.
Just to finish up, I'm sorry. So that's where I stand. I think we should go down to the cap, and that's what I would vote for. If we close the pools for a year, everybody's going to have to feel some pain. We're all going to have to. I tried to cut our salaries, but it was illegal. That's almost $1 million right there with the pools and the employees. I get it. It's unpopular. I get that. A couple other things that we've already talked about. We're almost up to $2 million in cuts, and we need to cut 3.7 to get to the cap. I don't know. I'm not a math whiz, but I don't think
Definitely
it's.
don't disagree with you guys on doing more in-house work. 100% agree with you guys on that. And Tony, thank you. I think you've set us in the right direction we need to cut 3.7 million. So where are we at? If that's our goal, let's cut 3.7 million. And that's the starting point.
Well, in keeping score right now, we found an additional $575,000 in revenue based on the increase in fines and bed tax, getting rid of Meals on Wheels, closing one pool, getting rid of celebrations, cultural groups, the IT director, his potential decrease in the board, highway superintendent. We're cutting $431,000. We're up to a savings of $1 million so far.
Increasing the board, I don't think happens without a referendum and going to the public. So that would have to hold an election for that. If I'm correct, I could be dead wrong on it. Maybe this board could just decide, hey, we're going to go down. But then how do you decide who? So I wouldn't even count that as a cost savings at this point. I'm not opposed to decreasing the board if that's an option we want to talk about. But I think for this budget piece of it all right now, I don't think it's an option.
And I think we talked about that before, but that's part of the lawsuit and everything.
Right.
So you gotta go
You got
through the Attorney
districts
General's
and all that
office.
stuff. So I think that's a tough one to crack.
Is that correct? Okay.
And there's a process and there's a deadline for it to get on the referendum.
When we get to the revenue side, if we're forecasting more, I can understand there being stylistic differences. But regardless of what our forecasts are up here, we're going to end up getting the same amount of revenue. So let's take the mortgage tax for the sake of an argument. It's forecasted right now at 1.35 million. And let's say we get 1.5 next year, just for the sake of argument. We're going to get a net benefit in the budget proposed of $150,000 that would go towards replenishing reserve funds. And if we go up to 1.5 million and we get 1.5 million, we would not get that $150,000. I'm just describing what will happen. I'm not saying whether it's the right way or the wrong way to do things. If that's the decision that gets made by the board, so be it. We will make it work. But just keep that in mind as we adjust revenues, that because we forecast something different, and I know you all know this, and I'm not trying to be condescending by any means. I just want to make it plain that it doesn't mean that extra revenue will show up.
Yeah, I don't even think we
We
should
could
be
always take
addressing
everything
that.
to the casino and put it on red too, right?
We're not here to replenish those that you used 5 million of last year. We're here to cut now $3 million out of a budget that's going over the tax cap that I don't ever remember the town board ever approving. Maybe there's some history there I don't know about, but since I've been around and with living in this town since, well, I've lived here forever, I don't remember them going over the tax cap.
Tax cap goes back to what, 2011, 2012, right?
Mhm.
So it's 13 years old. There was a large tax increase many years ago when Ken Myers was our supervisor. There was a fallout of federal funding. And there's a lot that I put into thinking about this budget. And this is one of those things that when Mr. Myers was supervisor, there was a fallout of federal funding that created a budget deficit. And it resulted in the late 1970s of a 29% tax increase on town taxes, which I think we would all agree is crazy and none of us want to ever see here. I would not come to this board with a 29% increase. I would cut, if I was forced to, I'd say we're closing pools, we're doing this, we're doing that. And after all those cuts, we're at that point. But that's just something in the history. So one of the things that I've put into with this budget is what happens if 2026 is a bad year for the economy, where we do see a decline in sales tax revenues, we see a decline in home sales and some of these other issues. And that's something for us all to consider, but that thought informed these numbers as well.
I understand that, I do, but I think we get elected to do a job and make hard decisions, and we just can't keep putting our hands in people's pockets. I mean, I've been around, everybody's been around, but the last couple of years, or last year and a half, and there are a lot of houses for sale in this town. A lot. I basically grew up in this. I don't ever remember you could go down just about every street in town and there's at least one for sale sign on a house. You know, there's a reason for that. So we have to do better. We have to put it bluntly, piss people off, our people. Sorry. That's how it's got to be. You're not going to be able to do this. I've asked repeatedly certain people, a couple of lean years, just give us a couple lean years to turn this around. Yeah, that don't happen. So we'll make it happen. And like I said, I'm not worried about, this isn't a reelection ploy for me. If I don't get reelected, nobody's taking my birthday away. I'll wake up the next day, November, whatever, 5th, 6th, whatever, and go on my merry way. And I won't sit here in January. But till January, that's my feeling. It's just too easy. It's too easy to say, we'll raise taxes. It's too easy. We need to make better decisions. They're harder decisions. That's just me.
I agree. We can't seek prosperity through taxation. And sure, we'll have the nicest pools and the nicest roads and the nicest everything, but we won't have a tax base that can afford the taxes. So what does it matter how nice the roads are or how many pools we have open? Because you're right, Councilmember Filipski's 100% spot on saying that we haven't seen so many houses for sale in this town. And, you know, we go over the tax base, I think it's really going to be, you know, on steroids of people that are going to want to get out of the town of Cheektowaga.
So now everybody knows where we are. Now what do we do?
I know as long as we're talking about unpopular subjects, let's somebody point out something. And once again, this is the areas nobody wants to hear. But just to point out, senior center, we bring in $103,000 in revenue. We have $915,000 in expenses. The cost to the net impact to the town is $812,000 to run the senior center. Going back to youth and rec and pools, I combined all of them. We bring in $756,000 in revenue. Now, once again, this is youth, recreation, and pools combined. We outlay to support that $2,028,000 with a net impact to the town of almost $1.3 million. Something to consider.
So are you recommending cutting both departments completely?
Well, you guys want to save money and find another $2 million between cutting the senior center and youth rec. There's $2 million right there.
I will die on that sword.
As
I said it,
Councilman
Human
Felicity said,
Services is a no for me on cutting those operations, and that's just because of my philosophy, what I do for a living, and what I see every single day. I will die on that sword. That is an absolute no for me, but I'm part of the minority on it, so it is up to the rest of this board.
That's a lifeline.
no, I respect that.
And to
But I'm
compare-
just saying, I'm just letting you guys know what that costs the town.
So why can't we compare every other department similar to the way we are youth and rec and saying, hey, it's a non-revenue generating program or service? They're all providing services from the town. I mean, and
Right.
we say the argument of, hey, not everyone utilizes youth and rec, or not everyone utilizes the senior services, but not everyone calls 911 either. And not everyone recycles their grass clippings there and mulch it, so I guess that argument could be made on multiple fronts on every department we have. But I'm just throwing it out there. I'm a heck
Okay,
no.
well,
And,
as you said, 1% cut on the police budget is $1 million. What do you want to cut out of police? Highway department, we have trucks. Once again, I went through the infrastructure and the repairs on that. Do you want your streets plowed? Right now, I got 3 trucks that are down that I'm trying to get repaired.
Actually, that's a good, because you jogged something in my memory, so thank you for saying the trucks and that for highway. Maybe that's a cost savings too. Pull it all out of the budget and then bond that stuff. I know this board does not want to bond, but we have vehicles that are going to last 20 years, these plows or whatever, or sanitation trucks. We have a couple built into this budget here. And if we could bond for those items and pay like a mortgage would, I know the board doesn't like to bond, but it could help save this budget here a little bit.
Just a point of information on that. We have $1.45 million in equipment in the budget for 2 trucks for highway. We have a garbage truck. We have pickup trucks for the Parks Department, the TV truck for sewer, and there's other additional equipment costs. Let's say for the sake of argument that we did go the bonding route. At a cash value, those trucks cost $1.45 million. The actual cost of the interest, and I'm just going towards median low side of it, it'd probably be more than this. Let's call it $2 million to buy those trucks, because you have the interest rate on it, right? But then you got the real interest, which is going to add at least another $500,000 to the cost of those. And if you took a 10-year bond and spread it out, you could knock off $1.2 million of this budget right now if we took that new equipment into bonds and did it at approximately $200,000 a year instead of the 1.45 in this budget right now. And depending on how the bonds are done, they might cost you just a little less at the beginning and build up to cost a little bit more near the end. I don't have the exact numbers, but you can shave off at least $1 million of this budget to buy the equipment over a 10-year spread instead of one. What's the opportunity cost though, right? It is going to be $500,000 in interest. And I'm increasingly coming over to we should buy this stuff with cash when we need it rather than bonding. But I understand where you're coming from. It's not a criticism, it's a description of our options. If the decision's made to spread those costs over 10 years rather than incur it all right now for a TV truck that is past its useful life for the equipment. We know we have plow issues. The pickup trucks are 2008, Councilman? I heard you that you went over and checked those out, so it's we can do that. That's a decision for the board to make.
And I agree. I mean, $500,000 in interest, we're just pissing away money that on that end. I get that. Don't like that either. But at the same time, we don't have cash on hand to buy anything. We don't have cash on hand to move forward with a single service or program. We're talking about cutting whole departments here at this point. So what do we do to at least start to right this ship? I don't think this is fixed in this budget. I said to this board as a whole, this may be a 4% tax increase for the next 3 years to right this ship. This mess was created over the last 10 plus years of taking from our reserve or low, projections and stuff like that, or overspending stuff. There's multiple pieces that cause this issue, and we need to right this ship, and we're not going to right it with this budget.
One other thing to consider, and we'll get over to you, Councilman, I see you want to speak, is suppose we took the time to save $200,000 a year cash in each budget to get, or let's say $145,000 a year for 10 years to buy all this equipment in 10 years from now. The value of those trucks later on, those would cost even more. We see that the cost of a dump goes up year after year. We know the cost of these other things would go up. That would be an argument for the bonding to say that, hey, we might as well pay the present value of the truck instead of the 10-year future value for it in cash. That would justify, that's what's the argument advanced to justify the interest. I am personally not sold on that, me being Mr. Cheapskate with my own money, wanted to buy this stuff with cash and saving it up and like, hey, the coat from the thrift store is fine, but when the option we have before us right now is a need for certain equipment, and again, it's on the board to determine what equipment is necessary in their own investigations. The option to use cash would have us avoid that interest. The option to use borrowing spreads the cost out and reduces pressure on the 26 budget. Councilman Jasinski.
To Councilmember Pilarski's point, he's right. It was a problem that happened over the past 10 years. I was in the minority of that, half of that tenure. And now, as Councilmember Filipski had mentioned, this is, the Republican majority had inherited this budget. So we're trying to fix problems that we didn't have the majority vote in. I was the minority for the past almost 4 years. So, my vote was basically null and void. So, but if you look historically on how some of these council members voted, it'll tell you the tale of the tape. A lot of our houses in this town are overassessed. So I don't care what anybody says. If your house is assessed at a certain dollar value, it's going to impact how much tax you have. So I think that it goes beyond this budget. It goes with the leadership that's been on this board for far too long. And we need fiscal accountability. And we need people that are going to be able to make decisions in the best interest of the town's people. And the most vulnerable, the seniors, the people who have paid taxes, majority of their lives. We need to protect them. We need to say, hey, listen, I'm willing to do everything possible here to cut this budget, to make this place, the desired suburb it has been for the past 60 years. But if we keep on putting houses up for sale and people are like, hey, I can't afford the taxes in this town, they have to do what meets their budget. None of us are getting a raise. So I think that a lot of problems, historically, a lot of problems the past board has contributed to this tax problem. So now it's on our plate. We have the opportunity as the majority to, try to fix this problem. And I'm confident that we will fix this problem moving forward.
You have spent a lot of time campaigning up here and on their soapbox, but have not given one solution, one recommendation. Your paper was blank until Diane and I started speaking about cuts.
I got all my cuts right here.
So
I'm just writing down what you're saying.
Name some of the cuts that are not mentioned by Diane and I and start producing and be part of the solution.
Just because you and Diane mention it doesn't mean that I'm not in favor of it too, Councilmember Pilarski.
Point out one thing then that is not on Diane's or my list.
Yes.
One thing.
Yeah.
What is it?
I'm not here to appease you. I'm here to appease the town's people. So when it comes
the town people will be part of the solution.
So listen,
get off your soapbox.
Well, hey, I'm just calling a spade, okay? We need to move on. I'm not here campaigning. I'm here to point out pure, hard facts.
There's no question to call, but I understand it's my style at these meetings, as long as I've been the chair of them, is to give the folks up here a little more breathing room than the typical chair of a meeting would allow. I know it gets testy at times. I mentioned this at the last meeting. I can cut these exchanges off sooner if the board would like, but I think I think it's healthy to a certain extent for these things to happen up here, even if it's a little messy. Councilman Filipski looked like he wanted to speak. Did you want the floor, sir?
Yeah, in fact, I can't.
Then we'll get over to you, Mr. Pilarski. I'm sorry.
What I was going to say.
Maybe that's the
Oh, no, I'm
downside.
sorry. Yeah.
There we go.
I don't think we never said we were totally against bonding. I think the problem with the bonding was always, we bonded for like 6 streets and it's a 10-year bond. And then like 2 or 3 of those streets had to get added to another bond because they fell apart. So we weren't getting a bang for our buck, so to speak. But I kind of like the idea of catching up the fleet and then putting the department heads' plans in place, their 10-year plans for vehicle replacements. I know like facilities and parks and somewhat of highway had plans that they had for a 10-year replacement plan. And I think that's what was needed, is needed, a strict replacement plan. I mean, nobody should be driving around a 99 pickup truck. It's, so yes, and those are work vehicles, they get worked I would just hope that we could get, if it comes to that, a bond, and I'm not saying yes or no, but I'm just saying, hopefully we get 15 years out of a 10-year bond out of a vehicle.
We'll go over to Councilman Pilarski, and then I would like the floor after him.
No, that absolutely makes sense, Tony. There's no way bond for something over 30 years that's going to last 7. It doesn't make sense on that. I do have one more addition going through my notes here that I skipped on accident is the junior engineer position at $77,000 plus health benefits. Again, get the need for it, but now is probably not the time, no different than the IT piece. So that would be an additional, let's say $77,000 and the health benefits. So far my cuts are up to $598,500.
Okay, just on the bonding question, one of the many things that informed this budget was the, let's say, divergence or diversity of opinion on how to deal with bonding. We have had a board that's had a change of opinion, and it's understandable, that said, we want to do more on a cash basis if we have to do it at all. So this budget kept that in mind to say, I heard from our department heads and the folks in this town that were preparing departmental budgets, which, again, for the record, a lot of those folks gave us 1% budgets, and they were emailed to board members. And at a department head meeting, I did instruct our folks, based on the resolution, prepare your budget, prepare a 1% budget, and those documents are with our finance director. They should be in emails, and if anybody's looking for any of those, we can get those over. The ones that are available here. So our department heads did their job by and large, as far as I'm concerned. On the fleet replacement, one of the many things I'm working on is with sewer, highway have provided these, and the Parks Department is well on its way to get a multi-year replacement list. Where do we want to be in 10 years on our fleet? And Mark Mazza, gave us a lot of information to get us toward a replacement plan on that. To where we can build cash into the operating budget to help make that happen over time. So the reason there's so much cash or so much in appropriations to address the fleet is the thought process was this might be more palatable for the board than bonding, knowing that, hey, when conditions change, sensible people are willing to change their positions for the most part. And on the bonding question, the town has got well over $70 million of debt right now. We're at $74,580 according to the 2024 annual financial audit there. And the new debt that was added in 2024, which is almost exclusively due to 2023 town board resolutions, a lot of that the street lighting project, which I was supportive of and I voted for. We added $25,000 or $25,630,000 to our overall debt when we went to market in 2024. We didn't go to market in 2025 for bonds because we didn't approve anything. And, I'm not saying anything Mr. Filipski doesn't know about when the debt falls off and all that, and the rest of this board, obviously. I don't mean to single you out, but it's going to be a while before some of this debt falls off, and we're going to have some long-term debt service. On the lighting, we're getting a savings on that. And on the streets, it gets said over and over again that we were paving streets that were done 7 years prior. Generally, that's not true. There may be certain circumstances. I think what's informed that talking point is a confusion over streets that are divided by a main road, like, let's say, for example, George Urban Boulevard, where we paved the dead ends, and folks thought we paved the longer side of those streets, or in other neighborhoods where that happened. I think that's the most common, that created a misconception about bonding for 10 years on a road, and then we did it 7 years later. It's because we did the dead ends at one point and the rest of the road at another point. That's not to say we haven't taken out bonds that maybe we shouldn't have as a board, but going back to the equipment side of it, at least, that would be an opportunity to say, hey, we're willing to issue a bond to purchase equipment, and not to compare us to other towns, but I'm going to do that. West Seneca in September said we need new garbage trucks. And their decision on that was to put out a $1.1 million bond to purchase 3 garbage trucks and a pickup truck. That they could have done that, I think it was $1.1 million. They could have done that by throwing another $1 million into the operating fund, but that probably would have gotten them over the tax cap beyond the 3% they're proposing this year, without a doubt, if they did that on a cash basis instead of borrowing. And I just say this to share the information that I have, what informed the budget, and I'm not advocating for one or the other solution at this point. I did put my budget in front of everybody, but that's the options to consider. Who wanted to be recognized next? I lost track of that. Councilman Jazinski?
Yeah, I don't think any of us are opposed to bonding as long as it's fiscal bonding. We don't want to incur new spending. So as some of the bonding falls off, we can have some of the new bonding take its place. Plus, I think we need to set aside a certain fund to be able to buy these new pieces of equipment. I know myself and several other board members had made that suggestion several times. So I think that's, being fiscally accountable is setting aside, not wait until things boil over and, the pot's boiling over and now we got a 4-alarm fire and now we're trying to, play, triage this thing that's gotten out of control. I mean, we said it happened over the past 10 years. I mean, so you clearly saw some of this. I'm just curious to know, I mean, you're not open to opinion, but I think, that it'd only be fair if you voice your opinion too on where you're at as far as making some cuts.
I propose my budget. We're here to hear your ideas for cuts, Councilman. Would anyone else like the floor? Councilmember Benchkowski.
I can start because I have a whole list here, but I guess we have to start somewhere because I had been marking up my whole 157-page booklet, so I'm just trying to pull it out to make it easier. But anyway, if I start, I wanted to talk about the cannabis revenue too. I thought maybe we could also look at possibly increasing that slightly. That was back
That's
where
we're looking at the general fund, correct?
Yes, I'm starting.
I think that is right above the appropriated fund balance of 6.965 million that we're going to be drawing out of.
Okay.
I have the 200,000, so there it is. 100-1910-1116, top third of page 3.
Oh, yes. I don't know why I don't have.
So we have 215 on the actuals right now. I've got it at $200,000, which for the record is $10,000 more than was the initial recommendation. But honestly, if we would have kept it at the 190 rather than 200, I mean, I really didn't do anything different on that.
I would just recommend maybe going up another 50,000 to 250,000, because we have so many more cannabis shops throughout the town. So add another 50,000 to that revenue, and they keep coming, I guess. So
yeah, the most recent report that we received, the budget prep report that was printed off, it was run off on Wednesday. That has us at 215,000 on revenue.
now,
So one of the things that are happening with this is that revenues throughout 2025 for cannabis, every month that we're generating, someone's got to move.
oh,
Someone's got to get
That's
in front of
right.
that motion sensor. Thank you, Councilman. Just so we understand how the revenue is building. The with a lot of these revenue lines, we have the existing businesses in place or the existing mechanism fully in place. Through the course of 2025, we've had new shops come online. So if you have revenue from first quarter of the year, it's not going to include as many of the businesses as it's going to in the fourth quarter of the year. So this is an area that we're still seeing shops come up. Again, we don't know what we're looking at in 2026 because 2025 is going to be the first full year where we're getting revenue. If we were to be more aggressive on that, it would factor in more shops on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's what happens if there's a decline in, the Cheektowaga cannabis shops overall? Do we know if any of them are going to close in 2026, and what impact would that have on the businesses? Because as we've discussed through the course of the year, eventually the market in the municipalities that have legalized, they're going to get oversaturated, and some of these places are going to say, you know what, I can't make money anymore. But I say that just to keep the trends in mind and the things that are actually happening.
Well, let me just go back to, you mentioned the most current report that we got was just the other day on the 22nd of October. But in the September report, it was still at 215. So how often do you get that revenue back?
Brian, they're quarterly checks, right?
I believe they're coming quarterly. They're so new, it's hard to
Okay, so
know
right
exactly.
now, it's the same as it was in September. so
Correct. And
Probably missing almost a half a year or at least a quarter.
I have to reach out to Erie County because I know there's an issue with distributing revenue. Like the county,
Right.
there's
mhm.
something, whether OCM or the county, there's a lag right now. So that's something that we would have to get
They're
answered.
6 months sitting there waiting for us. I could almost guess if in September, we only had 215 and now on October 215. So
Yeah, we could take a look in accounting and see what the most recent, because when they remit the money to the town, they being Erie County transfers it over to us. They tell us what period it was for, so we can check that out, but it doesn't specify it came from these particular shops or,
no, I understand. I'm
But
just saying,
we can get
I'm just
some.
making a suggestion, just possibly increase that to 250 from 200,000. That's an extra $50,000 over there. And as far as cuts, starting with, let me look at,
Throw something out there. I was just gonna say, I was questioning the miscellaneous expenses from a lot of different lines that I see. Just kind of trying to determine what that is.
Can you give one example, and let's see if we can get to the bottom of it right now.
Page 58 of the prep report. Rec, miscellaneous expenses.
My supposition is that if there's expenses relating to the department that aren't within labor, first aid, things like that, that they get billed against it. What we can do for this particular line, I was hoping I can answer you right now, is we can have accounting give us a list of the things that were billed against this and get back to you to show you an idea of it and just use that as an example. And I know there's multiple, so we can get a more detailed report on that stuff if you'd like to have that. It was at page 58, right?
Yes.
so going to overtime in the assessor's office, I think we need.
Which page?
Oh, that's page 19.
Thanks.
We had added some back in, I think, thinking that for exemption purposes, but, and when we didn't have a permanent full-time assessor, he said they needed some overtime, but right now, because that was at 0, I think, last year.
But should we move that funding from the position itself, the department head position, because there was that lag of a couple of weeks where we didn't have a department head? So that was just a transfer. Oh, sorry. So that was just a transfer from one line though, from the department head line. So it really was budget neutral. at the end of the
Anyway,
day.
it's separate now. So overtime, I think we need to take $5,000 out of there. I don't think they need five.
Gotcha, I get what you're saying. Yes, that makes sense.
So we should just bring that to zero because there's enough, we're finding there's enough full-time people in that department that we don't need overtime. We're not, and I think the overtime usually we would add when there was a whole townwide reassessment, and there isn't going to be, I assume, next year. It doesn't look like it's even budgeted for.
Not budgeted for next year. And I'll say this, the line was initially at 8,000 and I reduced it to 5. Without getting into details, this board knows well that there's been some
Yes.
let's say lineups over at the assessor's office. So that's something to keep in mind when forecasting that number.
Right. So I would like to see that decrease to $5,000 decrease in the assessor's budget for that. And I think
The next page, contracted legal.
Yeah.
yes, right, from 120 to 80,000.
Well, I think we got an issue with that one. Dennis, can you speak to contracted legal and what we were discussing yesterday?
Yeah, myself, Councilman Pilarski, Mr. Fowler, and Tammy from HR had a discussion yesterday. As you are aware, we're currently sitting $30,000 over the legal budget with HR and personnel. We did meet yesterday to kind of discuss what we were going to need for the end of the year and potential findings for next year. Because HR is, which has long been needed, enforcing the rules and abiding by their job descriptions and everything else, we've had an increase in grievances, which is expected. Some of them have been escalating one thing or another, but we did decide that we are going to need at least another $75,000 into the budget for this year, which we can do through budget transfers and hitting the contingency fund. However, for next year, until this cycle of grievances and things settle down, we're anticipating on top of the $150,000, another $100,000 in legal expense to fight these cases.
This is a different law firm we use for the assessor's office.
Right, but with the amount of grievances that we're also fighting with the assessor's office, kind of the same thing.
I thought this was just for when she's going to fight the Article 7s.
I would have to ask her back
Normally it
that
is
question. We didn't get into that, but we were also looking at with this arbitration stuff, if we may need to tap and borrow that from her to bring over to either legal or personnel.
That's for this year, not for next year.
It might even be for next year as well. Because we're estimating 100,000,
Would
but
be
we do
willing to
not
do
know
that.
where these claims are going to go or any of the lawsuits. Obviously, we had a critical incident this year with the police department that is still unresolved, and we don't know where it's going. So we're being very cautious in looking at that and making sure that we have enough funds, whether we need to borrow from the assessors or Mr. Fowler's budget. We just want to be cautious on the legal right now. It's a sensitive area.
I understand, but we have 120 budgeted for next year, whereas this year we've only used $11,000, and in 24 we've only used 52,000. So if we went from 120 to 80, we'd still be conservative on the conservative side.
Yeah, just as a point of information of that, going back to 2021, here's the numbers I have on the assessor's contracted legal. We used, in 2021, we used 115,000 and change. We were at $90,000 for 2022. The actual in 2023 was 135. The actual in 2024 was 52. So besides this 52, the next smallest number was $90,000. And there could be a change in things that are going on there that would justify a different number. But that's the multi-year trend to keep in mind.
Well, in some of those years you just mentioned, we had the full townwide assessment 2 years in a row. So that caused us to have to fight a lot more new assessments or people challenging their assessment. That's why we needed the attorney. But this year will shows that there was only 11,907 used. So that's why I'm just suggesting we could cut that to $80,000. So we could,
How much was that?
so from 120,000 to 80,000. So that's what, another $40,000 we could save right there. And the overtime, we took take 5,000 off out of overtime. And then I think somebody might have mentioned the town clerk. There's some big upgrades there, but that stipend that was added for vital statistics before I left in 2023, leave it back to 5,000. So take that 10,000 out of the town clerk's vital statistics stipend from 15,000 to 5. So that's taking out 10. And bingo inspector, we talked about eliminating.
Was that something that we legally had to have? A bingo inspector?
A what inspector?
Bingo?
No, we don't have to have, do you want me to do this?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sorry, yeah.
We can go over it if you'd like. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody heard his,
You don't have to have an appointed named bingo inspector in a separate line for it, but you do have to, if we are permitting bingo games, have somebody who has been tasked with making sure that the game is running fairly and according to state, both, bingo and gambling laws, which could be anybody you wanted to appoint, could be a police officer, could be a building inspector. How you pay for that is going to be up to you, and who it is going to be up to you, but we have to have somebody in that position.
It legally be part of like a assigned committee of a council member, that's one duty of theirs. Instead of having a committee, they're the one to inspect bingo?
I don't see why it couldn't be. The law doesn't seem to specify that it can't be a council member.
Look like you had hesitation. Why? I'm just throwing stuff at a wall, so
here's
please, yeah.
what my thinking was, just to rehash this email real quick. Our VGM lieutenant was always in charge of inspecting games at chance at the lawn fates and such.
Yeah. And absolutely, I'm all for that, but I'm only assuming that if duties are given to another, union body or whatever, it may come with an ask of an increase. So does it really save money, or does it just offset who's getting the funding and the money of it all? But I mean, if they're willing to take on that duty, and our police are great on taking on extra duties,
there's hardly
we have nothing to lose by asking, right?
So I think we can just take that out. Can I just
not a lot of
finish
bingo going on anymore anyways.
my other recommendations? So going to personnel, I think there was an ask for an extra part-timer. There's one in there now. I would suggest we take out the additional part-timer. That would save us 16,000.
Can you tell me which line that is, please?
Yeah, okay, so we're on page 25.
Okay, you got over to 25.
And the line number 114.30, 1971.
1971. I'm seeing that.
That person was actually, requested in order to support this UKG project that's underway, and I would caution that I think we need.
Can't afford it though, Brian. We just can't right now.
Well, then the
There's
UKG
one
project probably won't be successful.
The other person, there's a part-timer also in there. So there's an additional one that you want to put in just for this program?
That is.
There's a lot of input to put into the system. It started
Yes.
from scratch, from the ground up, and it's not just a matter of clicking a couple buttons and all their information's into the system and we're rolling
What's
out.
going to happen to that part-timer once they finish that?
Once we get the UKG rollout done, if you want to speak to this, I know you've been paying close attention to it. It's not a position that will be needed in perpetuity. The intent of the UKG program is to engage in labor savings. So it's a cost up front to enter data, and then once we get all the information into the system, we can put the new employees in as they come, and it's going to streamline all sorts of personnel and payroll-related services. Brian, if you wanted to add to that, or I don't, Vern or Councilman Thompson, if you wanted to add to that. Again, we can just move on.
Okay, the other suggestion would be printing contracts. You have $25,000. I think that really, realistically, we shouldn't be really printing except maybe the TCEA wants theirs. So, and in 2023, we only spent $3,458.
We could definitely cut that. We just met yesterday and Tammy has done an excellent job bidding it out. And she said they are substantially lower than that 25
Yes.
right now. So I'd say we can get away with cutting it at least in half, maybe a tiny bit more, but I would say a comfortable spot would be in half.
We could take 12,500
And
out of there.
that's an update since this budget was drafted and presented to the town board on September 23rd. But
Okay, so let's subtract 12,500 out of there.
we have, it's,
That would still
that's,
leave us
again,
12,000.
that's a decision of the council members.
So I think
But,
we could probably-
but just to say that we have been looking around and there are more affordable opportunities than what we thought it was going to be.
Also, the traveling, I think a lot of times now, we need to cut that travel and training and having people do things online. So, I'd like to cut that 1,500 down to 200. In 2024, only $200 was used. And I know there was some type of conference they used to go to in Albany. So if we just cut that down, and this year, nothing has been used. So we should cut that down to 200 from 1,500 to 200. Also, there's a request for an upgrade of 12, that's under the regular payroll, 12,380, I think we should remove right now. 12,380 out of there. Then in engineering,
What was that?
That's on page 25, line 7, in the top third.
it was 12,380. We could save right there. And then under engineering, I think we talked about, I just want to confirm, there is one position that's been in there for a senior engineer assistant, hasn't been filled for at least 5 years. 74,847, I would say, let's remove that. We subcontract a lot of our engineering work. So eliminate that position for now. It hasn't been filled for so long. And that's page 27.
Okay, on that note, it's one of the changes coming from this board over the past few years, and I'm glad to hear it, is we want to do more stuff in-house. A lot of towns don't have an engineering department like ours where we can do a lot of work in-house. I think let me say it this way. One of the things to keep in mind is that if we want to do more in-house, we need to ask ourselves the question, what kind of engineering department do we need? How many people? What are they doing? And just to have an overview on that. And whatever decision this board makes on that, so be it. But the decisions that we make on the staffing levels will impact what we're able to do in-house.
Okay, so can I just move along with this? And if, we don't have a majority in favor of this, that's fine. But my recommendation is eliminate that one position, 74,847, that hasn't been filled for at least 5 years, if not longer. And then there was an upgrade request of 11,203 that we really should eliminate at this point and maybe add it back in later. And overtime, reduce that from $45,000 down to 15. Also eliminate the part-time clerk. That's a new position that's been in the budget the last few years that never was filled. So eliminate 15,000 for that part-time clerk. So Dennis, I don't know if you got those. Sure. So Take away 11,203, that's under the personnel line for the upgrade. The extra senior engineer assistant position for 74,847, that's a negative. And a negative 15,000 for the part-time clerk. And, overtime bring down from 45,000 to 15.
About the other pay beneath that.
That's usually for somebody who's not taking the health care.
Correct.
One person not taking it now versus last year, it was zeros. So we're budgeting for one person.
Yes.
And travel, this is still under engineering, page 28. We can bring that down $1,000 from 2,750. Because the trend has been they're not even using anything close and they can do all their training online. This is probably for the 2 engineers in the department. So take that from $2,750 to $1,000. And I'm not sure what these miscellaneous expenses are.
The history on those is considerably lower than the initial request of $4,500. I took it down to $2,000. If you look in 23 and 24's actuals, those are under $1,000. And 48, looking back into 21 and 22, I'm not seeing the actual numbers on this page. Maybe they're blurring through.
Anyway, we should bring that miscellaneous expense down from 2,000, take another 1,000 out. So cut that in half.
I don't know what the board's desire is regarding the in-house work, but just on the 4 previous years, 24, 23, 22, 21, the lowest number was well over $30,000 on what that overtime line was. It's looking like we're going to be less this year, but that's just been the historical trend that informed the forecast.
So then moving on to buildings and grounds on page 30.
I'm sorry, Diane, I just want one question. On page 29, the polling place rental.
Oh, yeah, what is that exactly? That didn't make sense. Yeah, you're right.
That's a revenue, so it shows as an expense at a negative. That's money we get because we have the senior center for election day.
And do they also get something for Dartwood?
I can double check with Erie County, but it just says, polling places generally.
So you don't have anything then under revenue, it's just,
No, it's shown on the expense side of the ledger as a negative. It is effectively a revenue. I mean, technically speaking, you can put it towards the revenue side of the general fund, but the accounting identity represented on the page does the job.
okay. So moving along, buildings and grounds, I think we need to just overtime from 55,000. I believe we should bring that down to 40 for buildings and grounds. They only do our actual, just town hall. This is just town hall. I don't know why there's so much overtime, but if it's for snow plowing, we really should be more conservative on that and not call them in to start snow plowing at 2 a.m. So I think the overtime payroll, and I know the Budget Advisory Committee had made some recommendations about this overtime back several years ago, and it's slowly increased again. So they need to be a little more conservative with that. So bring that down from 55 to 40,000. Seasonal and part-time was a lot that we were trying to get rid of. I'm okay with the seasonal. Well, the seasonal.
Actually, on that one, Dennis, we were talking with Mr. Mez of the Parks Department about one of the potential cuts there, and that's something that can be taken out after that conversation.
Yeah, the seasonal, we were taking those out. We didn't need them, so I don't know how that got back in there, but we should bring that down and take another 15,000 out for seasonal. And part-time from 72 to 60,000, take another 15 grand out. or no, 12,000. That'll save us quite a bit.
Part-time.
Part-time, so seasonal is a negative 15,000, and then part-time is a negative 12,000. Yes. And then we should probably, there's one truck in there, we can look at the trucks later, but we'll leave that alone.
Yeah, with that line, there was 2 in the budget, and I did remove 1, so.
Okay, and I really think.
But there was
Brian-
130 in the budget, and I
Right, so
reduced
we
it
really
to 7.
have to do all these purchases of equipment, trucks and equipment.
Vehicles separate.
Yes, because this is supposed
think
to
they
be
should
an
all come out.
operating budget, and I don't know why we're not doing a capital budget separately.
Like we talked about, but I think
Yes.
we should take out all of the vehicles, all the Packer trucks, look at those separate or as a package together and say, all right, if we're going to bond, let's
And
do this together.
create these
Take it out of
capital
take it out of the
accounts
budget.
This is,
as reserve, those are the reserve accounts, is the capital accounts.
so one of the thoughts that I had regarding this budget and putting it together is this is going to hotel bed tax revenue that we are looking at. If you look at Erie County, they have a 5% tax on just over 10,000 hotel rooms. And we've got 3,000 hotel rooms. We have 3,100, and then we have motel rooms, 3% tax. We're looking at $1 to $2 million that we realistically believe can show up, right? And where does that money go? I mean, I don't think it's wise to take a new revenue and to have it cover operating expenses. The thought gets to this equipment, that if we forecast it at $500,000, it's going to support our operating budget. And part of my thinking, at least, and we can have difference of opinion, is that our equipment, if we're buying it on an annual basis, like replacing little by little, it's effectively part of the operating budget rather than a capital budget. If we want to make it a capital line, I could see the argument for that, and we have a new source of revenue that would cover some of those costs. And once we see what is actually being brought in, we can have conversations with sanitation and highway and parks and sewer to say, we have this revenue source, and the board can determine its priorities in funding those. But I would caution against taking all of the equipment out without having some type of a plan to address at least some of it.
Supervisor, if I could interject, I thought you were here to listen to our opinions. Now you're giving your opinion. Could you let Councilmember Benchkowski finish, please?
I do have a lot to go through, so anyway. Central garage, page 32. Those pool cars are back in there again, which we really haven't used anything, which I tried to take out when we did some of the transfers a couple months ago. But I think we need to bring that down from 121,100 down to 50,000. It's line 11640, 2502, pool cars. Bring that down to 50,000 from 121,100. Gasoline too, I don't know.
Councilman Thompson?
You have a note here that they're looking to use some of this towards a lift replacement. I don't know if that jogs anybody's memory. I don't
that would be a
have the
capital
amounts, but that
project.
should, yeah.
That should be under our capital funds here. Which
Where are we?
I did ask, I think Brian Kraus is in the process of getting an updated capital projects fund balance, right, per fund?
Yeah, because I think there's a lot more that goes into that. It's not just a lift. I talked to those guys. There's been a broken sewer pipe underneath the lift for who knows how long. So, might as well have it all done at the same time.
Those are usually under the building improvements. Actually, there's a fund balance here of 699,000 under the capital projects funds. Those are the 500 accounts that aren't even included in here.
Oh, perfect.
Am I wrong, Brian Kraus? That comes out of the building capital?
I mean, certainly there are funds there. It's, I guess, to be debated on how it's going to be spent.
We have $699,000 sitting there. That was as of July. So that's why I needed a updated report.
I understand. And I also, I mean, I know that there were plans for some of those funds already. So like, I think that sometimes you guys are just trying to, I guess, obligate the funds for multiple things. That's why I say you need to have a list of what's going to be made, what sort of spending is going to be made out of those funds.
Yes, and I'd like to know actually what the exact number is so far it's been used, what it's been used for. I think that's what the board, I mean, we're going at this blindly. We don't know what's actually been taken out of there already and what the plan is. So if we could get something sooner than later, it would probably help. But anyway, so that could possibly be, Vern, I don't know how, do you remember how much that was, that lift? And I don't either.
I think that, if I remember right, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you, it was around 65,000 for the lift, the concrete
And
work,
there's money
and
in
the
here.
pipe. Because Tommy had sent us two options, like a 45 or 40-ish thousand one and a six, does it remember
It's
that?
certainly less than the 121 that's there, and I can say
Yes,
that much.
yes.
So anyway, I'd like to move on. So we got the pool cars, the gasoline, I think is a little high too.
So are we putting the pool cars down to what?
I'm saying we should put it down 50,000. Because didn't we just buy a whole bunch of pool cars that we were leasing?
The intent of the fund here was more so related to the lift than it was pool cars. But yeah, we did just buy some pool cars.
So this can go down even more to say,
Well, in case we need to buy a couple more, we'd have that.
but what do we hypothetically even need them for?
I mean, it's going to take time. That's a recommendation. If you want to go lower, we can go lower, but,
I mean, I think, I don't mean to butt in, but I think while we're doing this, this makes sense, but, as I stated in a prior meeting, there needs to be four of you to agree on this. And I understand, Diane, that you're listing these out. Is there four members that are in support of all these cuts?
well, then I guess we have to take a vote up and then.
Yeah, are
So
we
far, are we
taking any
okay?
votes on anything today?
Yeah.
Maybe Mr. Fowler, if you wouldn't mind. I just want to be as efficient as possible here because it doesn't feel efficient
You need a resolution.
today.
If you want to do it today, you need a resolution.
Do we need to today?
Well, there's a
Need to
public
today.
hearing.
Sorry?
Public hearing we're calling for the public hearing Tuesday, so wouldn't we need the final figures in order to call the public hearing?
You are allowed to make changes subsequent to a public hearing. You can make changes beforehand as well. Your budget, the preliminary budget's already out there. But not preliminary,
No.
excuse me, tentative
But
budget.
still,
Tentative
we're
budget.
putting our preliminary together today.
Okay?
When do you need the preliminary budget put together?
The preliminary budget has to be, and forgive me, I don't remember the exact dates. I believe prior,
Spot.
what's that? No, not at all. Give me a second. I'll get you the exact dates. You don't have to make budget changes today by resolution, but I wouldn't recommend waiting much past Tuesday.
And that's what I want to get at because everybody has their ideas of what they want to do, but until we see something tangible on paper to say, okay, these are the 30 things I want to change, and then we can, have discussion at that meeting about that resolution to say, you know what, let's change it, to 20,000 instead of 22. That is where, because we can sit here until
Well,
tomorrow.
I'm
doing
okay
this.
with us
I just want to
discussing.
be as efficient as
Yes.
possible.
Well, so if, I haven't heard any objections. I mean, even when Councilmember Pilarski was talking, we kind of agreed on some of his things.
Yeah.
We told Dennis took the notes of what we agreed to, right, so far? With Councilmember Pilarski's suggestions or not?
That was one of my questions. Who is taking these notes? Because
I'm
we
just
are,
looking at-
you're absolutely
yeah.
right, Vern. So what's going to happen here, which I'm sitting here thinking, we're wasting our time because we're all spitballing ideas, Diane and I and some of us, we're throwing out these ideas, but who's taking the notes on what they are? How is there support for four? Like Brian said, are we just throwing it, out there? And then what's going to happen is we're going to run into a final hours here. It's got to be approved. We're not going to be on the same page, and the supervisor's budget is going to take effect automatically because we didn't meet the deadline. So we're going to back ourselves up into this corner here, and we're going to get stuck with a 7.65. No disrespect, supervisor, but I don't agree with that either. I don't want that 7.65. I know, and Vern's absolutely right. Are we doing a straw poll here? Every item, yay or nay? Do we agree with this or no?
Well, it would help because then we'll know if some of your proposals, mine, if you're not, just let me know.
If I can jump in. I think what Diane is reading, all of us have already, we all agree, all five of us agree on. So basically, I think this is probably like for your guys' benefit, and then a little more debate just to say, maybe like the pool car thing, we didn't know exactly. So yeah, could it be brought down? So that's kind of where we're at, but everything she's saying is, we've probably spent 12 hours on this. I know.
We've gone line by line and we still,
Right.
there's
So
still
anything
more.
she's saying, we already agree with.
I've had
makes
conversations
that
with
any
all of
easier.
you, so. So the pool cards over, and if you're not okay with that, but is that the one you're questioning? Where I am, with the central garage or not?
Well, I think it could go lower than that. And,
I mean, this is where we should talk about it now. So what's your proposal?
you want to bring it to 55, was it?
Oh,
Or 50?
all right. We went from 121.1 to 50, we were thinking. What do you want?
Well, and then in discussion that they've used 2,800 of that this year, and we just got new leases that we bought out. I think that could be brought down to 25.
Okay. Is everybody in favor of that? I mean, I
Or
have
if my logic is off, that's just my thinking on that. And
21.1 to 25,000.
yes,
Dennis, I'm okay with that. Dennis, can you put that in?
and then if Mr. Fowler, if you can just, reiterate, or once you have dates and things like that, so we can all be on the same page as far as what we're submitting, whether it be Tuesday or calling for a proper public hearing.
You might find this hard to believe, but I expected I would be asked questions that I didn't know the answers to. So I have some guidance for you from what my research that we've already done. On or before the 5th of October, which has already happened, the tentative budget is presented to the board by the clerk. Prior to the public hearing, the board can make revisions. And those are done by resolution and majority vote. Once that has happened, meaning the changes, then we have the notice of public hearing, and you have to have at least 5 days in between the notice and the public hearing that is held. Thereafter, after the hearing, you can make changes, but you don't need to have another public hearing. So none of these give you exact hard dates, but they give you the timeline, subject to what dates you wish to use for each of those benchmarks. Does that help?
Yes, and you're right. So we're trying to cut this budget down so we're not over, and we can make those after the public hearing. That's right, because we want to just present our preliminary right now. So it's flexible. If we think after today we leave here and we're like, I found out this, and this, we can add it back in or take more out. But we need to present a preliminary, which is the board's budget.
On the 28th.
Yes, by Tuesday, because that's when we're calling for a public hearing on the preliminary. And I know before we've made other changes, even after November 6th is going to be the hearing.
You can.
So after November 6th, then we could make more changes. So don't feel like this is all in concrete. Everybody got that then? So
I would only say that once the preliminary budget is considered, including changes, including revisions, if you don't have 4, then that budget becomes the budget for what that's worth. And
Exactly.
Again, that includes revisions.
Just to give you a scorecard update, right now, we're increasing revenue 625. We found budget cuts of 871,000, so we're at a net impact of savings of 1.5 million so far.
Okay, so a little over 2 more million we need to find. All right, so I'm not sure where, I left off on gasoline because the gas prices are pretty steady. So that was still under Central Garage, 11640, 4072. That's page 32. Instead of budgeting 430, we thought maybe 415,000. And then the diesel also from 455,000 to 375,000. Now, if anybody objects to those figures, maybe we should talk about it now, so we can just keep moving on. I don't want anybody to feel this isn't concrete either, but these
Yeah,
are.
just to take a look, going back to 2022, our gasoline costs were 532,000, and our diesel purchases were 677,000. That doesn't tell the whole story because there are reimbursements too, but I would just take a second look at the balance between the reimbursements and the fuel use going back just a couple more years, because you get a little bit of information going back to 2023, but you know, the lake's warm. So if we get a major storm, that can impact things. If we're doing more in-house, that can impact things. And if the price of these fuels are going down, that impacts things in the other direction.
The only hard thing I see with going back on a 5-year basis is 2020 was a disaster. 2021 was less of a disaster. 2022, it kind of started to get back on track a little bit. So I don't know, it's just hard to go off of a true 5-year, but I do understand that.
I appreciate that, and that's
And
like,
both ways, it's hard to say whether it's for better or for worse.
and you know, one of the many things that informed this budget was getting ready for an emergency, and that's a question that I'll keep saying it. Councilman Filipski asked like the essential question in my mind early on the first day: how much money do you need for an emergency? And sitting here even now, I still am not comfortable with a precise answer to say this percentage in your funds, or this set aside for this set aside for that. I'm not going to pretend to know the answer, so. You know, my approach is to be on the more conservative side, and that you can see throughout the document. But, you know, going back a couple more years, you think about the impact of a major snowstorm on the town, or a major decline in revenues associated with a pandemic like COVID, or housing decline.
Supervisor,
And
if I could
just a
interrupt
moment,
you.
Councilman, I'm speaking.
Interrupt you. You said you didn't want to offer your opinion. Please let the council member finish. Thank you.
You know what? I'm sharing what informed my budget so you guys can make more reasoned decisions. It's not an opinion. It is the things that led to the document. You know, if you have opinions on what you think we should do with the budget in terms of specific lines, I would love to hear them, because I'm not hearing, respectfully, Councilman, I'm not hearing a thing from you. I'm hearing from Councilmember Benchkowski.
Right.
I'm hearing from Mr.
Right.
Pilarski. I've
Right.
heard from Mr. Filipski. You're heavy on rhetoric and absolutely devoid of ideas because you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Well, I understand your liberal ideology has failed this town, right? So we asked for the council member to speak. You keep on using vulgar language, and your inept ability to put forth a good budget for the town people has spoken loudly through this. Now we have to play mop up for your ineptness. Please let the council member continue. She is speaking on behalf of us. As Councilmember Filipski said, we spent multiple hours working on this budget. So please allow her to speak. Thank you.
So same thing with software licensing. Where is that?
Excuse me one moment, I'm sorry. Going back to the diesel cut, so you know that the diesel lines also have two lines below them are the diesel that gets allocated to the other departments or gets billed to the fire departments. So if you're cutting that from 455 to 375, that negative diesel allocated has to be a lower number than $375,000. So if
Well, maybe it should be, since
So, I mean, I would say that we would have to reduce the diesel allocated line to like, to 350 or something like that, because it can't be more than what we're actually spending.
Allocate that on, if that's 11640, 4167.
Right. So we'll make that negative, yeah, that
Yeah, and
number
then the
350.
4165, what do you
I
want?
think that one's fine. That one's fine because it's significantly less than the 430 above, or that you changed to 415. But the diesel number would be out of whack. So that's why I brought that up. So it'd be 350, we'll call it.
Okay, so I don't know, Dennis, do you know where he's talking about, what line?
Yeah.
Okay,
So with the explanation of that diesel, you said it was tied to the fire districts. Is that cutting them out of it and they got to get their own, or does that change the revenues now, or is that no impact on any of that?
Oh, they'll still pay.
No, it doesn't cut it. They pay what they're going to pay. So the bottom line of all this is like, we're still going to buy gas and diesel and we're still going to bill people. It's just that the number has been, lower because prices have been pretty stable.
Gotcha. Thank you.
okay, so, getting back to, I believe it was equipment and repairs for sanitation, 4442 line. I think we talked about bringing that down to $100,000 since,
Bringing it down to 100,000?
yeah, from 150, so that would save another $50,000.
I'm going to weigh in on this stuff just to share the information, and it is up to the board to do with as it wishes. Just the last couple of years were well over 100. That's just what informed the decision. If you want to lower them, so be it.
Well, so far, it looks like we've only spent $41,000, and the projected at the end of the year is only 100, and we did buy several new trucks. So it looks like the parts they're using now for repairs are from the old trucks. So we're not buying as many, and they're just using the old trucks for parts. That's my understanding anyway. I don't know if do you want to take a recess? Maybe it's 12:30. I don't know if I'm.
I can go all day if the board would like to go.
I say we keep
I would
going.
recommend a recess.
Keep going because I have a 3 o'clock.
You don't-
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, because we lost 2 council members.
I got
so-
something at 2.
Yeah, all right.
Keep it going.
All right. So
And if you need to go up,
then we
go up.
talked about auto washing, bringing that down, possibly another $1,700 for the auto washing. Bring that down to $1,000 because most of that is done. The police department does their own, has their own line, and they buy that recurrent sticker. And Tom Carney has found a bunch of auto washing tickets. So just bring that down from 27 to 1,000. So that's another 1,700, Dennis, for that auto washing line.
I got his notes.
Okay, good. And
Got it.
I'm going to move on to some of the bigger items now. Under central processing, we're going to right now put the assistant director on hold. We already have that taken out, $75,000. That's on page 34. And we wanted to possibly bring the mobile devices on page 35 down from 125 to 100. So that's another 25,000. On page 35, remember we were talking about the mobile devices?
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep up with Dennis's stuff too, so I'm maybe
Down to 100,000.
struggling.
Yeah, bring that
multi-
down to 100,000. And
4203.
yep, 4203. And then on line 4321, the software licensing, bring that down from 383 to 275.
I would check in to see if there's dollars in there related to UKG, just something to keep in mind.
Oh, well, I don't know. You can always put it back in after we find out.
Software maintenance. Down to,
210?
oh, I was just gonna say maybe 250.
Okay. So line
Uh-huh.
4434 you're talking about, right?
Correct.
Bring that down to from 279, 288 to 250,000. Right, is that what you're saying?
79 to 250.
Oh, correct, yes, sorry.
Okay. And I'm ready to move on to central records management. Does anybody else have anything else that, I'm just trying to get the big ticket items and then we can always go back. So under, there's a couple upgrades there. On page 36, under the payroll, we were going to take out the $5,000 temporary increase for director training and $1,350 take out. So it would be a total, we're taking out of a negative, what, 6,350. And under special items fund, page 37, we are going to, the private vehicle reimbursement, we're going to take that down from $2,200 to $500. The last several years, it really hasn't gone that much, and we really want all our employees to be using our vehicles. Right, so that, and we're thinking maybe postage from 145 to 130. And the contingency account, we're talking about bringing that down from 175 to 75,000. So that's another 100,000 right there. And then under the community. Okay, on page 41, under line item 1901, it's 3120, 1901, we were going to eliminate the request for an extra sergeant for, and that would, we could take that down for 108,299 or $108,300.
I don't think that, I would have to probably confirm with Captain Roll, but I think that that position, so you wouldn't cut the full 108,000, it would cut down to like a police officer title.
Oh, okay, because you added the whole full amount in, right?
It's saying it's an upgrade of a police officer position, so there's one less police officer. The police officer would have been 80. It could have been presented differently where you'd say 82
Right.
police officers and then like the difference to be elevated to a
All right, so can you
sergeant.
can you work on that, Brian, and let us know what it should be if we took that upgrade out?
I will, yes.
And get that to us and Dennis, so I'll make a note also of that.
I don't think that one is much. I remember talking to the chief about this one. I think that one was, there wasn't a supervisor on that.
It's a new position.
Well, it's an upgrade, yeah, and right now, we've never had that, so.
That would be
do
an
another
added,
year.
an added supervisor position. So in theory, what Brian is saying, Kraus, if I'm reading it right, is that it's a new position, but it's only $20,000 a year more because it's a police officer going to a sergeant, say. So you're only actually spending 20,000 more. You're not spending the whole 108.
Great.
You're accurate, yes.
So.
Once
I mean, if you want to just say we'll cut $20,000
Cut 20,
off.
okay, so we're gonna
That'll
cut
make life
20 from
easier.
that line for that upgrade, and then under, on the page 43, 4095, the therapy dog, which we don't any longer have, we should eliminate that for 3,152. Then under, okay, yeah, so that was underline, it was on page 43, therapy dog, 3,152. Eliminate that. Then under graphic, let's see what I have here. Well, I'm going to go on to, because those are so minor right now. I'm going to go on to the page 48. There's request for a vehicle track system. We think we need to put that on hold since the police are buying some of these vehicles for snow conditions from the program through the, Tony, you know what I'm talking about, that vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
1033?
That's line 100.
Program, right?
Yes, 3641, 2307. I know he wants to buy these track vehicles, but we are talking about that. And right now, we think we need to put that on hold and take that 15 grand out of there.
Yeah, that's where they take the tires off a regular car and put the tracks on them.
But we also have, I think,
Yeah, they just got a track
the police
vehicle.
bought 2 of those Army, heavy-duty Army.
Yeah, they got a Hummer, they got a personnel carrier and a
That could
track
carry
vehicle.
several passengers
Correct.
in a snowstorm that were stranded,
I think the one's like 17 people, he said.
which would probably be better for
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
So right now, we'll just take that out, and we had talked about this line 4010, disaster preparedness. It looks like nothing's been taken out of there. What's that 16,000 for? Well, actually, only 6,000 was taken out this year. Maybe bring that down to 8,000. We're talking about that. So take another 8,000 out of there. And under the highway, for page 49, eliminate, take 80,000 for the highway superintendent, deputy. Deputy highway, 80,000 taken out of there. And we talked about overtime, 1902, bring that down to 0. So take 80,000 from the personnel, and then overtime, take another $8,000 off.
Aren't there 2 there, in senior clerk and senior clerk typist?
That's the overtime, yeah.
1,000, oh, I got you.
Under parks, I think we were thinking of overtime, bring that down $5,000 under, from 95 to 90. So take, and that would be on page 53. Overtime is 100, 7110, 1902 overtime, bring that down $5,000 a negative. And possibly under the 2 trucks, that's 2303, bring that taking $65,000 off there. A negative there too.
I'm sorry, on the two trucks, what's the proposal?
One truck, or just bring that down $65,000. Tony and Barb, am I correct on those? Okay. And then some of these other lines were minor ones that we could look at later, I think. Recreation, page 55. There's two upgrades there so we need to eliminate those right now. 7,113, no, times 2. So take both of those out, which is over 14 grand. And the overtime payroll, we wanted to take another 1,500 out. $60. Department head request. Wanted to take that 2,815 out. Right?
Correct.
The employee recognition day on page 64. That was negative 1,400. Do you already have that, Dennis? And 1,400. That's on Councilmember Pilarski. Okay. And trying to see where else we had gone. I don't know. One of you, anybody else want to jump in? Because I might be missing some stuff right here, but. On page 67, employee benefits, and maybe Brian Kraus, you would know, under line 190, 10, 8141, medical insurance. The $10,000 budgeted, we wanted to bring that down to 2,000. I'm not sure why that's at 10.
The 23 line, I could take a look at the other ones, but I think it's a big part of what informed that. Maybe Kraus can speak in more detail.
On page 157, the medical insurance line, it's 8141 are the last two numbers.
You're on page 67, did you say?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that cut's fine.
So take $8,000 off of that. Okay. I'm sorry, did you have questions, Tony, or?
No, it's fine.
What about the Meals on Wheels? On 66.
Yeah, well, can we hold that for now and see where we are? I think there were. Maybe go to sanitations. I mean, there's some other things in here that, we might have to look at, but right now, let's just go over to the sanitation.
What page are you heading to?
Okay, 89. I think maybe that Packer, we'd have to put that in a capital fund. There's a request for $275,000 for a Packer. And the landfill costs so on page 90, I don't know what you want to do about that Packer truck. That was a question mark, I think. And start saving for one or possibly bond for one. I don't know at this point, but we have bought at least 3 to 4 of them in the last several years.
But do we know, maybe I missed it, I probably did. Where is the revenue from the totes replaced? Where does that go?
It should be on page 85, see where it says consolidated
Okay.
garbage revenue? That be the dumps, I'm not sure where. Brian Kraus, where would the revenue come when people buy the totes?
6.
5, it should be under revenue for consolidated garbage.
Yeah, 86.
A container and user fees, got it.
I believe it is on page 86, yeah.
Oh, it's on, yeah, 86.
Yep, thank you.
But it's showing no revenue this year. Oh, it is. Oh, so you didn't budget for any revenue though for next year?
Yeah, again, this goes back to the general philosophy of the budget to be very conservative on the revenues that we have coming in. We can budget for, let's call it $5,000 to $6,000 if the board so desires. That's your decision.
So it looks like it's costing us more for the totes and then what we're bringing in. If we're paying $28,000 roughly for new totes, but we're only bringing in 8, why is that?
Part of it's recycling, part of it is the fee structure, and it's something we can address.
Okay, so we really should probably address that. Right. And your landfill costs on page 91. Oh, and the composting. Okay, so is that, I'm sorry, go back to page 90. Composting, you have $80,000. Is that going to cost us that much with West Seneca?
I think the price is $75,000 next year, and that was what the agreement Rusniak reached with the town of West Seneca. We got to get that formalized, but that's the agreement that was reached.
So okay, so we're not sure on that, so we probably should just leave that alone for now. Okay. And the landfill costs that we really don't have much control over either.
And we're going to be bidding that out. I've met with a couple companies just to get, faces to names. We're looking at putting an RFP out. I spoke to Fowler about that. And arguably, we may not have enough money in the budget line to cover the real cost next year.
And the same thing with the recycling on page 93.
There are some variable costs related to the recycling, but a lot of that's fixed. So sorry to clarify, overall, the number is variable, but the baseline of that is generally fixed.
Okay. Then we were looking at page 99, I think was the interest earnings for the sewer. We're on sewer now. Page 99, the 255, 19, 24. Revenue, we're thinking it should probably be 350,000 rather than 300. Maybe I'll have to refer to Brian Kraus. I mean, what is your outlook for that interest earnings? Since we had,
Well, I mean, as the, we know that the Fed is looking to cut interest rates, so I don't know that the revenue is going to continue to increase. I mean, I do recognize that this year it's projected at a pretty good number. So, you know, I mean, it's,
so could we go up to 350 safely?
I don't have an opinion on that.
Revenue numbers just to balance our budget. I said it at the beginning. I mean, I'd rather lowball it and, you know, plan for the worst and hope for the best. But if we're going to inflate our revenues just to balance the budget, I don't think that's a safe move.
If we cut appropriations as a board, that would mean there's less cash in the account, right? Which is less cash to earn interest on. And then if you have the interest rates that are trending down to Fed rate cuts in 25, at least one in 26, you're earning a lower interest rate. So those two things compounding are going to lead to less interest revenues next year. If only one thing happens, one of those two things happen, you're looking at less in revenue. But if both, you're looking at even less. So if we kept larger cash balances, yeah, we probably safely go up to 350. But I think the general consensus here is we're not gonna have larger cash balances than what's projected.
We can just leave it then. I think we're fine with that, right? So going now to page 101, under sewer, there's like requests for over-the-road vehicles, which, like I mentioned, I think before, at one point, we used a lot of ARPA funds to buy them a lot of new equipment. And I did check, and we did a lot of this already. So I would say we put a hold on these purchases and eliminate $480,000 and if we have to put it back in at some point, we can put it back in. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
And the sewer repairs, I have a feeling they might go down now because of the new, it's 255, 8125, 4438 on page 101.
Down.
Because of the fact we passed the sewer law, we changed that to have the private side pay for that if they get a permit, like if it's affecting their lateral.
Just, we do have a backlog on some sewer repairs. I can get a precise list and for folks that were on the list before the change of the law. So we should keep that in mind because they're not gonna all get done in 25.
So,
Kind of backlog.
yeah,
I think I wanna say there's around maybe 20, 25.
but I thought
properties,
those are
but
part of what we're
if they're-
doing already.
Yeah, if they're related to a different line item, we can deal with that. But what happens is these sewer repairs, if one line goes over and one is under, there have been budget transfers historically. So I'm bringing that up in the general sense and not related to this specific line. So if we get into any repair, maintenance, sewer related line like that, it's something we should keep in mind with them as a whole.
Because then there's another line on page 102 for contracted sewer repairs.
Right, and that's
So
why I bring it up.
there's two different ones. So maybe those are under contracted sewer repairs.
Get a list of what's still out there before the law was changed. Try to get an estimated cost.
Those wouldn't be those
associated with that.
emergency ones that people have to go for a permit when their lateral breaks.
Saying before we make an adjustment, just to know the cost.
But do you see what I'm saying at page 102? Then there's another 375,000 for those contracted sewer repairs, which I believe is the one that we put out to bid to help with the DEC consent order, or is that coming from a capital fund? Because it's a DEC item.
Well, one of the issues we have is that we've got some work off of William Street that we've got money in accounts. We got to figure out what portion of money we're using to get those taken care of. That's the one that's in sewer shed 9, I believe, maybe sewer shed 10.
Okay. So we got to start going through that sewer budget again with a fine tooth comb, because there's a lot of zeros. Nothing's been spent out of these lines. If you look on page 102, but they're budgeted high, even
Tell me which ones.
Yeah, like even, well, these are computer cost allocations, so.
Those are all the allocations that we do in accounting, and that only happens at the end of the year. So that's why they're all zeros.
Go ahead.
Just have a question on the sewer line, building repairs. It's like
I was gonna
39,
ask that.
32, 38, 38, 37, 31, 105.
Oh, there, we forgot.
Is there some like specific project they have or something? Because it's, it's almost a $75,000 increase. I don't recall anything, but maybe I missed
That would be
something.
under the capital projects one.
Thought it was related to some pump station
The
updates.
Roycroft pump station, I believe,
Is
we
that-
put extra money in the budget to address the Roycroft pump
But
station.
I thought they
issues.
were under the 500 lines when he asked, that was when Mark,
Oh, it says on the line or page 101 above it, it's saying there's $65,000 of money for the generator.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Roycroft.
Got it. Sorry about that.
No, it's hard to read this
So once I
report
flipped the
sometimes.
page, I guess I zoned out.
but what does it mean, 5% increase of 2025? There's a $40,000 expense, allocation and a 65.
So the department head asked, like if you look at the budget for 2025, it's $38,900. If you take that times 5%, that's the $45,000 or $40,000 that he's asking for. He just wants to keep the same level and then add the generator on top of it.
Those aren't coming from any other 500 capital fund. I thought,
Oh,
Building repairs,
yeah, that's on 102.
101 leaving over at 102, right?
And I think, so going to the pump station, 105. Requested maintenance worker. That's under the personnel regular payroll line.
what page is this?
That's on page 105. It looks like 25,000, but there's an extra 57,593 in there that for an additional person.
Yeah, so if you're looking to eliminate that, you should probably eliminate the 57 and the negative 25. Yeah,
Somebody give the controller the amount. I don't have a calculator now, so mine's not.
593.
32.
32, yeah, 57 minus 25 is 32.
593, okay. So now we're going into the highway fund on page 110. That's where all the sales tax, so the revenue is on page 110 is the revenue. There's sales tax revenue there. Yeah. I mean, we were thinking of possibly adding another $1 million to that revenue.
that would be a large overestimation, I believe. Let me look at, because sales tax is utilized in that fund and the 800 fund.
Yeah, so what did you, I don't have it in front of you.
So like last year in 2025, the two lines totaled, I believe, $11.1 million, and in this current budget proposal, it's $12.1 million. There was $1 million increase in it.
Oh, okay.
On the sales tax, Dresser and Malucky gave us I think I've talked about this earlier. The projection for 25 on the list is 12.64 million. And it's got a 3.3% increase for next year. The initial budget was for 11.15 million. I added 337,000 to it. But if we got 12.6 and the year before that we were at 12.2 and then 12.6 in 2023, that's the recent history we're working with. We did have a decline in 2019 into 2020 because of COVID.
Well, then we're probably going to just have to leave it alone for now. As far as some of the other expenses under the highway,
I have a quick question before you go on. The highway fund revenue, highway services, other, Geo, is this, it's whatever, 400 something. Is that what we charge the county for plowing?
County gives us cash and we plow their roads.
That's what I thought. I just want to confirm. Do we charge them more?
Contract at the last board meeting. I could take a look at precisely what the numbers are. It's just, there's a lot that comes our way. Right?
Yeah, I get it.
I'll refresh my memory on that. Get back to you.
so I guess on page 113, line 350, 130, 24/7, about the equipment. We possibly need to relook at that again, if you wanted to bond or lease or little by little buy some of this. Looks like the supervisor brought it down from 3,819,000 that was requested down to 1,000,001. So I don't know what you want to do with that. Do you want to just leave it for now?
Yeah, I think so. We need to have some more discussion about the vehicles in its entirety, as far as the direction we want to go with which vehicles we want to kind of package together. So it is important, I think, to get an order for some of these by the end of the year.
Yeah, on this, within the budget, there's a street sweeper. The highway superintendent and I met with a company that does leasing for street sweepers. We got to get follow-up on exactly what their dollar-based proposal is. As a follow-up to that meeting, I will reach out to those folks and do what I can to get that ASAP. So that way you have that information for consideration as a potential option. The leasing on heavy equipment is a different story. Comptroller can speak to the challenges with heavy equipment, but we at least have an opportunity on the street sweep.
Okay. Shade trees, I think there's a capital account for shade trees, isn't there? Where's that?
There is a tree fund that we have monies from developers that go into capital as well as a number of times we do transfer this money that was for the shade trees and highway. We put that into the capital to have it for the trees if it doesn't get spent in the current year.
That's on page 114. You have $35,000 in there for shade trees.
I do, and that's something that I increased above the 15,000 requested.
So where would I be able to see the amount spent this year? Because I thought we've been planting trees all year.
So this is a situation where we put out the bid end of summer. And there's a list, and I think the planting, if it's not underway right now, it's going to be underway within the next week or two. And after that's done, we'll get a bill and we should know what we spent.
The highway department doesn't plant any trees?
Between highway and engineering, trees get planted, and they use the money here to do that. And they go off the awarded bid that we do for tree planting.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna have to look at, page 115 is, the actual payroll, for the highway superintendent. And I don't know how he was able to add some of these things in and still be under budget, but he did. So I don't know where that money's coming from.
Money?
Okay, so on page 115, under regular payroll, 351.41, 1901. The original budget called for one general crew chief and 5 working crew chiefs, and he wants 6. So we should probably reduce that to 5. So we should take 1 working crew chief salary out of there, which I don't know, what would you estimate, Brian Kraus, for one of those salaries?
Well, I mean, I'd take the 530 and divide it by 6.
I just, my calculator here isn't working, so if somebody could.
85. There we go.
88,333, if we can remove, or,
$1,000?
oh, and that's not the benefit, so I don't know.
What the true cost is.
Yeah. And there was a request here for a new junior engineer position for 77,000, which we could probably take out. Pardon me?
Omit that.
Yes, so take out 88,333 and 77,000. Is everybody okay with that? Do we have 4 people in agreement with that? Okay. And the other one was overtime, bring that down from 382 to 350. So that sounds about right, yeah, 32,000. Take that, okay.
So point of information, if you get a snowstorm, we'd be going into the overtime line. I'm not saying what we should or shouldn't do. I'm saying
Taking some of this payroll money out of some other lines that I can't seem to find, so I'm not too worried about it. It might be under one of these capital lines too. Oh, okay, so on page 116, we were looking at the 4 seasonals. We took out all seasonals out of highway several years ago, so I see the supervisor brought it down from 82 to 62, but down to 0. So we should take another $62,000 out of there, right? For seasonals.
Part-time clerk funded with elimination of tree trimmer was 16,302.
Yeah, we don't need part-timers there. We took those out. So those are things that are easy to take out because they're not contractual.
Right.
Have to add it in, we could. So take another 16,000 out for 16,302 for the part-time.
You know what other pay is?
Yeah, that's for people who deny the health insurance and they get paid a stipend. So there's 4, I believe 4 people.
And on page 118, what is highway services other? There's a budget amount for 7,683.
Just the time out here, I got a chime in from Tom Carney regarding the diesel fuel. Just an FYI, there's additional money in diesel because there was no paving or milling done by the highway.
All right, can you just make a note for us to go revisit that? Okay, diesel and central garage, all right. That was a good point.
Well, looking at 119, even in highway, they have a line item here for gasoline, oil.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just for, yeah, gotcha.
It's zero, so they didn't use anything this year.
Correct.
How does that work then? So are we double budgeting that? 20,000 here and then Carney's budgeting for that?
No, because highway needs to purchase high octane fuel
Okay,
for the power.
right, but so they purchase it from central garage then?
The high octane, we have to go outside.
Oh,
Ours has the same situation, but there's a lot more.
We're not doing any paving this previous year, and this gasoline, it will be used for hand tools and such. They spent $0 of it. So I don't know.
I would imagine it just didn't get charged to the right line. It got charged to the other gas line in highway. So, I mean, I can verify the actual billings for the high octane stuff and see if it should be classified over here.
Okay, thank you.
and there seems to be Blacktop Highway, $400,000. Well, that seems to be right on point if we're going to do any paving or anything this year. That's on line 4178. So Dennis, whereabouts are we now? Because now we're through highway. We have to just go. Where are we as far as the cuts?
I might be missing things on it. I'll go line by line. Okay, revenue increase by 75,000, that tax 500,000. And increase revenue 625,000. Pardon? I can't hear you. Okay. What do we increase that to?
150,000.
Okay, so that brings that up to 775. I got these in order of highest to lowest, so sewer, vehicle replacement, we're going to up $480,000. Sanitation, we're going to get the average of $275,000. Bottom close, one pool, I believe that's about $100,000. IT, software licensing, 108,000. Central garage, diesel, 100,000. But we're going to consider that based on central garage, full cars, I got looking 96,000. Highway, deputy highway superintendent, -77,000. Assistant engineer, engineering, another 77,000. IT director, I had 75,000. We got.
I think it was around there, but
Yeah. Central garage, repair 65,000. Cars removed, vehicle replacement 65,000. Senior center, Meals on Wheels, eliminate the donation or reduce the donation, but it's all out now. Sanitation repairs, minus 50,000. Community, celebrations, 40,500. The assessor, we're going to reduce legal expense by 40,000. Main pump, we're going to eliminate the position, 32,000. Town clerk, same thing, 30,000. IT, software maintenance, decrease 29. Mobile devices, 25. Police, reduced wages, 20,000. Culture group, 17,750. Building overtime, 15,000. Building seasonal, 15,000. Central garage, fuel, 15,000. Traffic, vehicle track system, 15,000. CBA, buffer for personnel, 12,500. Buildings, part-time, 12,000. Youth and recreation payroll, 12,000. IT, additional upgrades, 11,000. Town clerk, $10,000. Various items in there. Highway overtime supervisor, 8,000. Highway overtime regular, 8,000. Assessor overtime, 5,000. Bingo inspector, I had 5,000, is that correct? How much? 6,000. Of course.
Hey, Dennis, can you get closer to the mic? Get
Yeah.
a message that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So bingo inspector, roughly 6,000. Town clerk, part-time clerk, minus 5,000. Parks overtime, 5,000. Police dog control, therapy dog, 3,152. Engineering travel, 1,750. Personnel miscellaneous expenses, $1,200. Engineering miscellaneous expenses, $1,000. Police auto washing down 1,000. All health benefits down 1,000. Vehicle reimbursement down 700. And these are just the additions that I added. Salary for the working crew chief with benefits, 106. Highway overtime, 32. Highway seasonal, 62. Highway part-time, 16. And 2 undecided ones I have right now is 1 decreased board, and second is highway equipment and other vehicles purchases. So that has not been removed because we don't know the amount, what we're doing with that. So with that, I come to roughly a total savings of about $2.3 million, with the increase in revenue as a net impact of $3.1 million.
Can I interrupt for just a second and ask if the board anticipates needing me for anything? I've got some town business that I'd be better doing upstairs on the phone, if that's all right. Please feel free to call if you need me. All right, thank you.
Dennis, could you just repeat that final number you have?
Total expense savings, 2.326 million. Increase of offset are including an increase of revenue of 775,000. I guess I should speak into the mic.
Yeah, so what's the bottom line now that we need to?
The bottom line in total savings, I have at 3.1 million.
That we found already?
That we've discussed, yes.
Oh, and that's what we didn't, isn't that what we needed to find?
0.7.
Okay, so we're close, okay. It's promising. So we might have to go, well, we have to look at the 800 line also, I believe, real quick. That's the building inspector line. And I know Brian Kraus said he put money in there from the sales tax revenue, which seems good as far as.
One thing to note that I did not include in the cut savings is the addition of 100,000 in legal for HR or personnel.
Add it or?
Yeah, we have to add it. because I think they're only at 150 and we estimate the expenses to be about 250.
We're going to be over that budget line this year. You'll see a transfer of funds amendment coming in next meeting. We sat
Yeah.
down yesterday.
For 75.
So we really have to be prudent when it comes to what we're going to fight, what issues we're fighting with the union and what we're not. We can't fight every single thing. So those are related to grievances?
Yes. Grievances, arbitrations, court fees, lawyer fees, all that combined.
Oh, could you repeat the number you want to add to personnel? 100,000?
Yes, from 150 to 250.
Oh, okay. So that's still a question mark, though, if we want to do that.
It's a question mark, but I have a feeling we're going to blow that 150 out. We already blew it out this year, so.
Have to do that, but okay. I have a note. All right, let's go quickly with the building inspector. Oh, Tony knows more about some of this, but there's some upgraded requests that we could probably just eliminate for now and revisit it later, which is on page 145.
You're looking at line 17 to 20.
Well, okay, so there were some pay increases according to.
145, Councilman.
We already did the senior code enforcement officer, right? So 10 grand in there, Brian Kraus, on line 8.
Correct.
That's done, okay. And are these other ones done? $5,000 and $2,400 and 10 and 11? I don't think so. Or
10 and 11, that's 50, 16, that's the TCEA 3.25 raise. So that one.
we already did the upgrade from an assistant code enforcement officer to code enforcement for that one individual, and then an upgrade we still didn't do is the 24.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm blending line number 9.
Yeah, so number 11.
I gotta get my ruler out.
So we haven't done that yet, and we might have to put that one on hold also. And
About the 2,400, is that what you're saying?
mhm. I thought that Don had cut something else, the building and zoning clerk. So there's a 46,000 on line 17. I thought he was putting some, Tony, do you remember? It was just a regular clerk or?
I think he was administrative clerk. I think he cut that, a building safety inspector. And I believe it was, I got it written down, but I didn't bring it with me. Assistant code enforcement officer, one of the positions.
Yeah, we got that all taken care of. It's those last, all right, so 17, 18, and 20, we should probably, these are new positions, so we should probably take those out for now. That's 40, so we can eliminate 46,830 on line 17, 12,200 on line 18, and $65,000 on line 20. And we already took out the 2,400 for that upgrade on line 11.
And going to 144, permits and inspections. Thought we said we were gonna take a look at that one.
Okay.
That's a line that,
Revenue line.
it was at 775. I increased that to 800. You have the 24 actual revenues at 916. I mean, you can make the projection whatever you want. What's going to come in is what's going to come in. I know something we all agree of that we need to do some more work on is actually adjusting the fees that people actually pay. Because the higher we make this line, you know, we can forecast whatever we'd like, but there's no tax levy on the part-town fund. So that doesn't make any real impact on the overall.
You have some appropriated fund
helps.
balance that you're using, right, for that?
Yes, there is, but that's not the tax levy. If you go to the
Right.
beginning of Finder.
Well, they're,
Yeah, I think it's the public budget. It's page, Roman numeral 3, under part-town fund, it's zeroed out. So you'll see that there's no tax increase on the tax levy because all the revenue comes from permits, it comes from sales taxes, it comes from other sources, not the tax levy.
I mean, what happens is in this fund, if you're reducing the spending, the appropriations, you'd have less need for sales tax. So the sales tax would shift from here. We'd need less sales tax, and it would shift back into the highway fund generally and
right,
reduce
and
highway tax.
that's where they wanted to use it for equipment and that anyway, so that might work out better for us. And then on page 146,
We want to change that?
what?
And
I think that they'll do that, right? Brian Kraus, you're going to change?
Sales tax I'll change based on all this appropriation changing.
Have to get us.
You guys want I don't know if you wanted to change the permits and inspection number or not.
I don't know if we should. It looks good, I think, at 800, right?
I agree.
And that's one of those we're saying, let's not do that. That's a revenue. And plus we're over revenue with the sales tax. So I think we'll be okay. But on page 146 now, there's also those part-time safety inspectors. So I don't know. Looks like it went up quite a bit and I don't know why. Maybe.
The hourly wage that was proposed, but I remember Mr. Wartinger being before us, was the second day of the hearings? He said that he feels he can do the I&I job before the consent order without these employees. I was not able to talk with him about these particular budget lines before I got the budget to the board early. So that's why these were here. And if he's confident he can do what needs to get done there, that alleviates
He did say
some of the
that.
concerns I would have
So
with cutting
the
those out.
two safety inspection he's keeping, right?
Gonna keep one.
Oh, okay, because there's two here budgeted.
Correct. But in the reorganization, he told me it's gonna be one. And then,
Take out one for 24,700. We can eliminate that, okay? And then what is the else? And then those part-time for I&I.
correct,
We don't need those either.
not yet, right now.
Take out another,
Say, like the supervisor said, he did say his people can handle it, said they could.
yeah, he
If
did,
not,
you're
then he
right,
was-
so.
If not, then it was gonna be a, part-time sewer inspector to do the I&Is, is what he was talking.
So we're gonna take another one out, because there was two added.
As far as, I know you could take both of them out for now.
No, we need one. I thought we need one part-time sewer inspector and take out the two part-time clerks for I&I, right?
Yeah,
There's one part-time clerk, you can eliminate 17,784 and 18,772. And that can always be changed after we submit our preliminary if we have to.
and one of the building and safety inspectors, because he's only gonna have one now.
Yes, right? So
Correct.
so that's the 24,700.
100.
We took one out. we're eliminating, and then a negative 17,784 for one part-time clerk and another part-time clerk at 18,772.
Correct.
Okay. And then on page 147, that's the housing. I think that stays pretty much the same there. That's for our code enforcement for houses and so forth. He's got 4 assistant code enforcement officers, and that's where he has 1 admin clerk. That's pretty local, but because they have so many of them there, I think that we have to just keep that in. That they have to do that training every year, and it's right here at the Millennium Hotel, so it's not, it's not that far. Right. So I think if we can maybe get a projected or whatever happened today, a report from either Dennis or Brian Kraus, where we're at, what we eliminated, because I was trying to take notes, but now, and we
Yeah,
didn't.
I think I'm going to have to get together with Dennis and match up our notes together.
Over the weekend, if you could send us something, I know you're going to have to work over the weekend, but we got to get this done by Tuesday. But we seem close enough, and there's still some things we didn't even touch, which was some other upgrades in other departments as far as personnel upgrades.
Mhm.
What is everybody saying?
Yeah, that's a great idea. That we're gonna give us the numbers.
Yeah, so then we know, okay, we're gonna have to, the closer we get, the better it is. And we can get to that number that we have to get, what is it, 3? Yes, and I think with some of these changes now that we just did in the building department, might have got us closer there. By any chance, Dennis, do you have a final?
Like what else? How much position? We need about another $500,000. Here, just a little under 3.2. But like I said, it'll also depend on what we do with the financing and the bonds on the equipment and the vehicle purchases.
Yeah, so that was all.
We'll have to add interest in, but that may be where we can find the additional.
So right now, we're around 3.2 million we found, and we have to find 3.7. So that's pretty close.
Are the vehicles taken out?
I did not, because I don't know the list of them and the amounts. We'll have to sit down and figure that out, and then figure out what the loan's going to be, what the interest rates are going to be.
Yeah, so if you could give us the report between you and Brian Kraus of the line number, what we took out, and then, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to refine mine because I have it by department and then
Yeah.
description of the line number and the amount, so.
Well, it would help if it was by department, because that's
Yeah,
how we
yeah,
have this.
I don't have the specific line number, but I got the department and the category.
Okay, and I know that Brian Kraus has the line item, just so we are talking about the same thing in the same department.
Yeah, we'll confer to make sure our notes are in sync.
Something for the residents by Tuesday's board meeting, as far as where we're at. And hopefully we'll be under, well, we have to be under, because I hate to make those difficult cuts in some other areas. So we're all in agreement then? I think we got a majority in agreement with where we are now.
Yeah, do we have any other business board members that would like to bring up before I make a motion to adjourn?
I just wanted to confirm, so normally what Brian Kraus does is then puts all this into a resolution once we're finished with our changes, whether it's a plus or a minus in certain lines, so I need everybody, I know I'm going to be looking at this over the weekend. I hope we all can look at this over the weekend, so we're not doing this during the meeting. I want to have this for the residents beforehand.
Yeah, I would guess that we probably could try to draft a resolution for you to make all these modifications. And and have it on the Tuesday meeting. That seems logical.
Yeah, so at least we'll have a preliminary budget to adopt then with those changes. We have to have that so that the residents between the time we call for the hearing and have the hearing, they can look at this new budget that we put together with the changes. Right? Everybody understands that? Am I missing anything, Brian Kraus? I think that's.
I don't believe so. No.
Well, I appreciate your help with this, and Dennis also, thank you for your help, and Supervisor, thank you for your help.
Thank you all.
And everybody, I feel a little more comfortable. I've been stressed out about this whole thing.
So with that, is there any other business board members would like to bring up that's relevant to the budget and these discussions? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll make the motion to adjourn.